Deep Fried Thoughts, it's the best podcast. Deep Fried Thoughts. Don't worry, we're working on a better intro.
That's crazy shit. Anyway, so it always starts with that. You like try some kind of Vicodin or Percocet or whatever. Up here, it's like Percocets. Down there, it was always Oxys.
For me, I was smoked weed with a guy that was across the street from me. He was older.
Yeah.
And I was already kicked out of school. I was doing night school. So I spent all day as a young kid sitting home while my parents were at work. And then there was this kid that graduated that smoked. So I'd go over and smoke with him all the time.
Yeah.
And then and my dad was on a lot of heavy medications.
Yeah.
So for me, that's where I learned like there's different types of highs and like better stuff. And that's when I was like, I want to try all these things.
Yeah.
So it was like Soma's, I don't know.
Yeah, muscle relaxers.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff like that and just painkillers that he had for serious issues.
Would you snatch them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how we were able to get it too. It was a similar situation. We had a friend named Adam, and Adam's mom, I guess she was kind of already addicted to him, and everyone had some crooked doctor back then because they were just handing the shit out. It was super easy to get scripts, especially if you were like an older person and had some type of ailment or a bad tooth problems or what. I mean, Adam's mom was like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas suitcase. It was, dude, it was fucking crazy. I mean, like fentanyl lollipops and like dilaudid neck patches, and you're like fucking like, I mean, we would take a razor and like do little cuts on us and slap one of the time released dilaudid patches on, but so it could get in your blood fast. I mean, like all kinds of, but his mom was all fucked up, and I guess I don't know what her logic was, but it was, I'd rather give it to them than them go out and go into the city and find it. It's like, but his mom's giving us fentanyl lollipops.
I know, I'm laughing because, you hear that with like drinking. It's like, well, I know they're going to go and drink. Yeah, it's like, oh.
I'd rather give them the fentanyl lollipops than them get it on the street, but that was wild. So, wow. I mean, Adam was doomed from the get-go. He's dead now. His whole family's dead, and we can talk about that if you want to, but Adam was doomed from the start. But Adam would show up and he'd always have all this crazy shit. So that we would try that. And by 16, 17, I think, 16, 17, fully immersed in opiates. And then I would take my friend, he was maybe like 19 or 20, and I was like 16 or 17 or something like that. And I had a car, and he'd be like, I need to go get dope. We would sell oxys and stuff also. And I would see him doing heroin. And I was like, and this was before it was all fentanyl and all this bullshit. It was actual, like, I mean, as much heroin as it ever was before it was all trank and fucking fentanyl and all that shit. I'm sure it was still beat to hell, but it was, you wouldn't die randomly off a bag. I mean, it was like pretty uncommon. So, and it would last 6 hours instead of 30 minutes. Like the shit now, they have you coming back within an hour because it's wearing off.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's crazy. They've been cutting it with so much stuff that, like, the dope heads will say it's got legs. This shit has no legs. The shit now, it's they're high for a minute, they're nodding out, they're falling asleep, and then within an hour or two they're like going to get another bag because they're getting dope sick already.
That puts a different understanding on it because that's obviously the lifestyle of somebody that's totally in that world. You're getting high and then you're going to get money to get.
The quicker they get sick, the quicker they buy more. So the quicker the dealers make more money.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, you can't have them be good. That's for a big 6 to 10. I mean, like, dude, we could get high on the heroin back in the early 2000s, and you'd be high for, high enough. I mean, you'd be really high for the first few hours, but like you'd be good for 6 to 8 hours. You'd be fine. And then you wouldn't even really start to get sick for 12, 18 hours. Like,
does that come on pretty quick to doing that?
I was pretty good at managing my habit, so I didn't really get sick very often. I was one of the dope heads that always like planned for that and had extra and saved a little bit. I was good at saving it. So yeah, but I don't know. After 24 hours, you're starting to feel like flu-like symptoms, and you're like, okay, it's, you're more, it's like your head is getting to you. You're like, you're going to get fucking sick, bro. You got to go get more or whatever. But the shit now, you got a couple hours tops.
That's crazy.
Yeah. At least that's what I hear. Yeah. I never tried it. I only did fentanyl lollipops. It's a little different than the shit now.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how small of an amount is needed for that stuff too, and how it's popping up and everything.
Yeah.
It's
Somebody,
scary.
somebody dies, everyone goes to that dealer because they have the good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I can understand it,
Right.
but it's sad.
No, it's it's so fucked.
I'll just do a little bit. I'll do less than them.
And I can't relate. I've never. That's what's kind of the point I was trying to make was like, when I was getting high, this was 18 years ago, and I was a little kid. I was 17 years old, and I lived in my mom's basement in Northern Virginia. I had zero responsibility. I had a job, I had a couple little jobs, but I wasn't like a functioning adult managing addiction as well as like trying to pay rent or fucking take care of a kid. And, like I got in there and I got really into drugs really fast, but I did it all while I still was like a careless child that didn't have any responsibilities. And I got in trouble and finally, like, I got my shit together and was out of it before I was ever even adult. Like I was out of rehab when I was 18 years old, and then I got a job, and then I moved out, and then I lived on my own. So it's almost like I had a drug habit when I was in a completely different world. So it was able to disassociate like my drug addiction days with like being a functioning adult. Whereas I think people that have had to like, manage an addiction in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever it is, they're trying to keep a job together. They have a family, they have all these things, and they're also juggling this addiction. So I think the temptation is much harder. It's a lot harder to get clean when you can try and keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, but everything's still going to remind you of that dope habit because you're still doing everything you're doing. You're just trying to cut out the dope. I look back and I'm like, I was just a little kid and I lived in my mom's basement. That was that time of my life. This is a completely different time I don't have those like reoccurring triggers, and I'm not taking the same bus route. I'm not driving through the same streets. I'm not going to the same dope spots or seeing the same people. They're all dead. So these people are still seeing all their same friends or whoever's still alive, and trying to keep it together in the same town, in the same neighborhood, in the same house, where they were, getting high on that couch that they're sitting on now, trying not to. So I don't know.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I experienced both when I was a kid, and they were very different addictions.
Yeah. It's easy to disassociate now. You're like, oh, that was a different lifetime.
Yeah. For me, it took me pretty much leaving the city.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was
geographical relocation. Sometimes it works. They say it doesn't, but sometimes it does.
I remember at that time you actually offered you had a spot open in your place.
Yeah.
And it was one of the places I was really teetering on. I was like, I know Michael would be a good influence as far as what I'm trying to do and stay straight.
I was the biggest hypocrite too, though. So I'm also a drug dealer.
Dude, that's one of the craziest things though, because it's so funny. Like I met so many different types of people that were just so different from what I grew up with.
Yeah.
In the city, and that's I guess kind of what I latched onto is people that would be, from an outside perspective, sometimes considered bottom of the barrel or delinquents and things like that. But I kept finding people that were very different than what I was told they were going to be.
Yeah.
And you were one of those people that on paper, I was told one thing about, what kind of guy you're going to be. And I was like, this is probably the most trustworthy guy I know. A guy I would trust with, anything really. I would go to if I was in trouble. And I even did. It was just very different. And I think you and Soap and Schlack in general, just that whole group of guys gave me a perspective in my youth of everybody's just a human being. We're all trying to make it. Everybody's got something. There's good and bad people on every single spectrum of the world. Yeah. And it just broadened my view, I guess, to humans, and it's something I've taken with me for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I still look back on. And I've definitely used you as an example many times. Yeah. When people want to say something about it has nothing to do with you, they want to know you. I'm like, well, I used to know these guys, and I'm like, you might say that about them. I was like, but you don't know these people. You really got to get to know people before you say stuff. But anyway, that's just a little side note. But
no, I get it though. I did have like, I had a moral compass. Like I knew some guys that were, let me maybe for the people that are listening, I got sober in, what year was that? Whatever, like 2004, I think. I got sober and stayed sober, and I'm still sober. But for the first 10 years or so of my sobriety, I had random little jobs, but I was always like, I would always sell weed or whatever. I had, I was a little, always do like a little bit of dealing to make, extra real money, whatever it may be. And I did that for 10 years of my sobriety, which is, I mean, like, I can't go to AA meetings and talk about that. It's so frowned upon. It's like, it's not what you're supposed to do, like, and I would sell coke and, like all kinds of shit. I didn't sell opiates because I personally didn't want to be around them and I didn't want to contribute to that. But for whatever reason, I justified cocaine as being okay, but I sold coke for 10 years of like my sobriety. I think I was a good boy after rehab for maybe like a year and a half. And then I was like, dude, I'm like, I was selling cars and I sucked at it. And I was, doing like a promotion job, like a media promotion job. And I was like, God, this is for the birds, dude. And that same dude I left my trailer to, he's like, do you want to make real money again? I'm like, fuck yeah, kind of, dude. So he fronted me a bunch of stuff. And, so I would sell weed and acid and coke and whatever it was. And, now I'm trailing off. Now I don't remember where I was going with it. Other than maybe that I'm a bad example of a sober person. So still, participating in drug activity for a long time during my sobriety. Oh, the morality, right? I didn't want anything to do with opiates. I didn't want to have a part in that. And I would sell shit to people and everyone's a grown up. If you want to do this, you can do this. It's your fucking choice. However, I would always tell people if I could see that they were like kind of a fucking, kind of a mess and like getting bad, or they started good and now they're not anymore. I'd always be like, hey dude, like you're kind of fucking up. If you don't want me to sell this to you, just say the word and I'll fucking delete your number. I'll never talk to you again. I don't care what you tell me, so I had no issue not making money off of that person if it meant them getting away from it so they could better themselves.
Would this have been anybody or somebody that you cared about?
Probably only people I cared about. Yeah, not everybody. There was plenty of people that I dealt with that I was like, this guy's a fucking jerk off. I don't care what you do. It's like you can't have the full moral compass when you're in that lifestyle. But yeah, if it's somebody I liked, I genuinely liked them and I cared about them, or I thought they had a lot of potential. Maybe they were fucking up. I'd tell them. Yeah, I'd at least cut them off.
I think it's very different. Just the fact that you were not doing it and selling it and around it so much kind of boggles my mind because
I never liked coke.
No,
not really.
Oh, I guess
I
that
loved
helps.
weed, but it wasn't hard to like. It wasn't hard to not smoke it. Like when I went to rehab, I knew it was all or nothing. After like the first few months, during the first few second month, I was like, I'll probably still smoke weed, and then month 4, I was in inpatient rehab for like a year. And I was like, after month 3, I'm like, maybe I could, I could stop doing this, but maybe I could like drink or something. But I never even liked drinking, so I don't even know why that went through my head. I never liked alcohol. Been drunk like less than 10 times in my whole life. And month 6, 7, 8, I'm like, I guess this is fine. I don't really need to do this shit,
It takes time, to get to that.
It sure does, because your mind plays tricks on you, and talks you into things, and
that's why I like those little 30 days of rehab or like 3 months of rehab. I don't get it. I don't see what you're really accomplishing there.
Yeah, some people can pull it off, man. Some people have strong will, and I didn't. So
I'm definitely not there.
9 months was like that was a pretty good amount. That was like the right amount of time.
Yeah. So, I'm just thinking because I'm thinking about some people just that I knew around that time that were selling and also using, and like we'd go out for the night.
It's a shitty combo.
And I just remember I'm thinking of like one individual specifically. I won't mention his name, but we'd go out and he would be like, "Hey man, like you help me get rid of this, and I'll give you one. All right, like in a bag." Like, okay, cool. So like I'd go out and I'd get rid of what I had, and then I'd go over to him, and he's like on his 3rd bag for himself, and I'm like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
like don't you have to, whatever, I get paid tomorrow." And I'm like, what a crappy like mindset. Like
you're selling this to make money, but you're covering what you used with the work, with the check from your actual job. This is supposed to be bonus money.
If anything, he was like getting a discount on what he wanted.
Yeah,
and it blew my mind because he stayed straight.
And for some people that worked. I mean, when I first started selling coke and I kind of was new in Philly, I would do the same thing. I'd make friends with some people and I'd be like, for every 10, 20 bags you sell, I'll give you one. Or whatever the rate was. I don't remember. But they'd be like, cool, I get a free 20 bag. Sick. Great. if that's what works for you. And then you could quickly, easily see who was trying to make money and who wasn't. And the people that were trying to make money, I was like, we can sort out a better arrangement for you if you want, if you want to make money.
So how has that business trickled over into legitimate business now? Have you used some of the same mindset or like the same networking or?
Yeah, a bit, it's still sales, Okay, so right around that time, when I first moved to Philly, I started, my brother got into doing merchandise when I was still getting high and, being a piece of shit and so on. He got into doing merch for some bands through our older brother, and we talk about him too, but my oldest brother started like a small record label, and my brother Dave, who's like the middle brother, was like fresh out of college, and my older brother Russell, who started that label, said, "Hey Dave, you want to go on tour and be a tour manager and yada yada yada?" And he's like, "Whoa, sick! Yeah, of course, I'll try it." And went out with these industrial bands, and he was a tour manager at the time, but he met a merch guy on the road who was handling this like industrial band called KMFDM. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're kind of like, they've been around for fucking 30 years probably, like kind of legendary industrial band. Made friends with that guy. Kind of fell in love with the merch game because, as a tour manager, your job is basically like wrangling up band dudes, getting them on, to the stage on time, gathering their food orders. You're a fucking glorified babysitter to, sometimes the artists are amazing and sometimes they're a bunch of man-child, So at the time, I think it was mostly the latter. So Dave was tour managing. He fucking hated it. Made friends with the merch guy for KMFDM. That guy was like, "Hey, you want to learn how to sell shirts?" He's like, "Fuck yeah." He's like, "Dude, come back here. I'll show you." He's like, "First, we take a big shot of Jaeger, and then we dump the Coke in our hand because the tables are dirty, and we do the Coke out of our hand, and then we sell the shirts and we make the money." And he's like, "This is a great job. I love this." So that was his introduction to merchandise. It's gotten so much more professional over the years, but that was the introduction. It's a pirate job, It's wheeling and dealing and running around city to city, hustling, selling shirts, but this is, now you're selling something that's legal and it's fun, and the people that are coming up to you to buy it are so excited and they're happy, and you don't have to worry that your door's going to get kicked in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So there's same thing. When the customer comes up, you put the fucking thing in their hand, like instead of them being like, "Oh, you sitting around being a grump," there's that stigma attached, like when you go to a concert and the angry merch guy.
Yeah.
We're not the fucking angry merch. We're the happy merch guys. Get the fuck over here. Let's talk. I want to show you, what shirt you digging? Which one you looking at? Like, I kind of like that. Boom, throw one in their hand. That once it's in their hand, it's over. They're buying it. So same approach as drug sales. Like, here, check it out, try it, go for it. It's like that shit's gone. It's already purchased. But once it hits their hand, it's bought. So same approach. I wouldn't say we're pushy, but it's not hard. It's not hard to sell something to somebody that when they already really like it. They're there for that band. They're there to see that band.
Which is a good, similar thing.
They're here to party.
Yeah.
I have the party. It's the same concept, but it's, I don't know. It's not as, I don't know. Maybe it's more rewarding. I don't know. It's like definitely less dramatic and less scary job. It's more just fun, and there's plenty of downsides to touring, but I love like talking to the customers and dealing with the fans, and we love that part. So like that angry merch guy stigma, if you're a bummer at the table, dude, fuck off. Go get a different job. What are you doing here? Like, these people are stoked. Come see this band. Like, why do you have to bring them down? Why you got to be an asshole? There's so many of those guys in this industry too. It blows my mind. Also, you're there to make money, and you're a bummer. I'm not tipping you. You're an asshole. I'm not gonna spend as much with you because you're an asshole. I just want this fucking transaction to be over. But if you're stoked and the person that you're dealing with is fun and happy and, dude, I love that shirt. Like, dude, how about a sticker pack? How about this? How about this? How about that? What else? What else? What else? That's the shirt I gave you on the back. It says, "What else?" It's a little phrase we coined. Like,
Mike brought me some swag.
Yeah, I think it's that
That's
one.
pretty cool.
It's, that one.
Let's see.
Yeah, it says,
I'm cracking
"What
up.
else?" So that's what we would always Anytime someone goes, hey, let me get a large.
Noisier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it actually just peels off.
Oh,
It's super easy. But yeah, no, you found a different way to get in there. Yeah, somebody comes out like, hey, let me get a large shirt. Cool. What else? It's not, would you like anything else? You know, not like, what else can I get you? You know, no, yes or no. You got to answer the question. You know, you actually have to tell me, I think I'm okay. You got to use more words than yes or no. So that's what we say every customer. What else? They want something else. They probably want something else. So what else? What else is going to be?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, anytime you know, it reminds me even like anything you buy.
Yeah.
So the thing I'm thinking about the most, more than merch, is like when you go to get a tattoo, and the guy's just not stoked about it. It's like I don't want you doing this. I don't. Yeah.
You're in customer service. Unfortunately, you better fake it till you make it, or get the fuck out.
Yeah, do something, because if you're not looking interested in what I'm doing, I mean, I get sometimes you're doing stuff that you're not interested in. Sure. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
But be excited for the person.
You could have
the person's
said no,
spending
too,
money.
you
Yeah,
know?
they're spending money.
Yeah. Yeah, they're literally putting money directly in your pocket. And as a service industry job, there's, you know, in the service industry in America, there's tipping involved with that. So do you want to make more money? Well, you better stop being a prick, you know?
Yeah.
You should be fun to be around. If they're stoked on you and they love you, they're going to tip you.
That makes sense.
Yeah, if you genuinely are stoked to be there also, like that shit just comes easy, comes naturally.
So going back to something you mentioned, you know, it's less stressful doing this, and you're not worrying about having your door kicked in.
Yeah, it's wild.
So I have told the story a few times from, you know, about myself, what I went through with, you know, facing some heavy prison time.
Yeah, you got yourself in a little pickle.
I did.
Yeah, I'm sure you've probably told the story on the air.
I have,
a few
dude.
times, so I'm not going to ask you to do it. I remember it.
But around that same time,
you had a gun in your car in New Jersey, and
couple
that was
1,000 rounds.
Yeah,
we were going on the camping trip.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. My camping
actually,
trip.
so yeah. There's
Was it
a little
really?
fun. Yes. Yeah, I was.
You didn't make it that year, did you?
No, I was bringing somebody that I got in a huge fight with.
I recall.
Yeah, and then which is that whole situation was always so dumb. But I decided to blow off some steam with a buddy. We drove around, went to Camden, which is, why do you do that? I don't know.
Great question.
Got pulled over.
Yeah.
Next thing you know,
your listeners are like, God, not this fucking story again.
Nah, screw them. Like, this is crazy. This is what got me straightened
You're here.
out.
It's only a couple minutes. Tough it out.
That's
I need a recap. So, okay. So
that's what got me straight. So like I got pulled over. 1,000 rounds, 2 unregistered weapons.
Sure.
Loaded.
Oh, they were not registered
in Jersey.
Right. Okay. They were legal to you.
They were legal to me. Yeah, I carried them.
The same as like Virginia, where you could just buy a gun off somebody in a parking lot and it was fine. Like you barely even needed a bill of sale. So I guess.
Yeah, the one that got found, I forgot was in the car.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they came up, guns drawn in my face, when we got pulled over.
Why?
My brother borrowed the car the weekend before. Went skiing. Left at the time, it was really popular to have these like beanies, like they were like hand sewn beanie hats that go over your face, but they looked like you had a beard.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Ever
Kinda,
see those?
maybe.
Or, they was like silly ones where you'd put like the ski mask on and it looked like you were, you know, maybe a big burly guy with a big beard and bushy eyebrows.
I kind of know what you're talking about.
He had one they left in my back seat. My buddy was reaching back for something, found that. I look over, he's got one on. I'm laughing at him.
Right.
Well, we passed the cop. Yeah. The cop just saw a guy drive by and the passenger had a ski mask on.
Right.
So he pulled us over, guns drawn, screaming at me, "You have any weapons in the car?" I was like, "I got a gun to my right." Like, I had my hands up.
You should have waited until 2022. You could drive around with whatever mask on you want now.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
It's totally fine.
I was ahead of my time.
Yeah, I know, dude. Yeah, it's fucking trend. Can I vape this thing?
Yeah, go for it. But yeah, the cops ended up robbing me. They took my money. This still boggles my mind.
Sounds strangely familiar.
Yeah. They took some of my weed, and I had a bunch of it. It was all individually packaged. Like, they could have charged me for distribution.
Yeah.
Instead, some of them were missing. I know it was them.
Of course.
And they left it in the car. It was in the impound lot with it all still in there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Weird.
Yes.
So you got it back when you got your car out?
I got it back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Come up.
I didn't get the money they stole from me, but
of course not.
Yeah.
No, that dude bought a boat.
Yeah. I was mad.
That's what my cop bought with the money he stole from me. I'm sure.
We're definitely gonna get to that. So that's where I'm bringing this.
I figured as much. Yeah.
So anyway, I had said I was gonna stay in jail for a while. I was miserable, pissed, and I also had just got like 10 grand or 15 grand like a couple days prior to that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I should just bail myself out, whatever. So I ended up doing that, and that's when you were in, your whole mess as well.
Yeah,
Can we go down that rabbit hole? See what,
sure.
what was going on there?
It was October 2012. Yeah, okay, so as you know, I've mentioned I used to sell drugs. I was making my usual rounds and, meeting up with people and dropping things off. And I had this one kid that I would deal with on occasion, but it usually wasn't anything too big. And it was usually weed stuff. You know, I guess over time you get a little lazy and you don't take as much precaution when you start, when you have an established network of customers. And that was my fault. I would, send out texts to like, my 10, 15, 20 people that I dealt with on a regular and, hey guys, here's what I got. What's up? Hit me up. Let me know.
Was any of it cryptic, or was it just you were just sending?
No, yeah, like trees are in,
Yeah.
as cryptic as you
Yeah.
can call that, I mean, but I would get a prepaid phone, once a month or so. I'd get a different one. Hey, new number, but it was the same people, so it didn't, I don't know. Maybe that was helpful. I guess, we all watched The Wire too much. I don't think anybody was actually like tapping those fucking track phones and shit, but who knows? Anyway, I called some kid. I was like, hey, you got weed? He's like, yo, my boy needs 5 pounds. I was like, that's way more than that guy ever asked for. I was like, I don't have that. I've got, I might have, I don't, or maybe he asked for 2. I did have 2 pounds. Like, I got 2. Sure. Here's the number. He's like, cool. Meet me at the piazza, that nice little outdoor area we talked about earlier. So I get it together. I go to meet the guy, and he's like, I'll meet you at the blah, blah, blah. So I got out of the car, parked. They used to have this big free parking lot at the piazza. That's no more, by the way. There's no more free parking anywhere in the goddamn city. But they used to have this amazing big gravel open, like free parking lot. I don't know what I'm talking about that. It was nice. It doesn't exist anymore. So I walk over to the piazza. I'm standing there. I have my backpack. I've dealt with this kid like numerous times. I never had any issues. I never really suspected anything weird about him. So I didn't think anything of it. I was just standing around waiting. And I see like 3 kind of like burly white dudes kind of walking, not straight towards me or anything. They were just kind of walking. I noticed them. It was like a Monday evening at like maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. So there wasn't a whole lot going on at the piazza. So I just kind of looked at these dudes. And then my phone started ringing, my track phone, and it was that kid calling me. But as soon as my phone started ringing, these 3 dudes just fucking 90-degree boom beelined and started coming straight towards me. I was like, oh, that's not good. They're coming right at me. At the time, I never carried, I had a ton of guns and stuff, but I never carried them around. The people I dealt with, it wasn't necessary. I only dealt with like punks and metalheads and tattooer people and like a pretty tight-knit group. I didn't deal with any like gang type shit or hood rat stuff or, none of that. So I never really carried a weapon. I did carry something on. I just never carried guns on me. So I would always carry around a sock filled with sockets because it was easy. If I was always driving around, I always had coke in my car and shit like that. So I didn't want to have a weapon as well. So I'd carry around a sock full of sockets because if I got pulled over, I could just dump it out. And so it's a sock and tools on the floor of my truck, no big deal. So I had that in my pocket though. When those guys came up, I started, I had it in my hand. I was ready to go and they moved their jacket. And I saw guns and bat. I'm like, oh. I just put my hands up and that was that. So they went and they walked over to my car. I think they found, I think I had some coke. I think I maybe had like nothing big. Like I had like a little like a quarter ounce of coke or something in my car. And they're like, oh, all right. You're going to jail. I'm like, I kind of figured,
Yeah.
So, they pick me up. They take me to jail. I guess they found I didn't have anything in my name that led to the house. Like I didn't have any bills in my name. I rented a room from people, and but I think I had a piece of mail. I had to do like an Etsy or an eBay return or something. So I had an eBay shipping label that had my address on it. For whatever reason, it was in the car. So they go to my house after they take me to the station. They scare my little roommate, this like young 25-year-old girl who she'd been through some shit in the day, but like she didn't see this coming, and they scared the shit out of her, and she let them in, and they went down into the basement, and I had what was it, like 300 grams of coke in my room, and like 7 guns and a few pounds of weed, and so they took all that, obviously. I had like 15 or 20 grand in cash at the time. Um, Obviously, not all of that made it to evidence. So I go to jail. I'm sitting in there, and at the same as I'm sitting and holding, I'm one of my friends walks into the cell. Somebody unrelated, totally had nothing to do with this deal, and I don't. He probably wouldn't care if I mentioned his name, but he's a pretty notorious guy in Philadelphia for alternative music shows.
Is this somebody I would know?
Maybe.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to put his name out here because I don't know if he would want me to, but I doubt he'd care. I'm like, yo, dude, what are you doing here? I'm like, he had just gotten arrested. You know, he's getting put into holding. As him and his buddy. I'm like, he's like, we just got pinched fucking going to meet up with this kid, Josh Snyder. I was like, that's what's so fucking weird, because I just went to go meet up with Josh Snyder too, and then I got arrested. And then we could hear Josh in like the next cell. He was like, Mike and blah, blah, blah. Is that you? And I'm like, oh, what a coincidence, Josh. It's so weird that you're in jail, but we went to meet you and now we're in jail. How strange.
Oh,
He's
that's
like,
so bizarre. I didn't know you guys were all in there together.
yeah. And he's like, yo, what do you mean? I'm like, bro, are you fucking snitching on everybody? You know? He's like, no, dude, I would never. I'm like, well, you obviously got arrested first, and then we're all arrested now. So these cops aren't doing a very good job to, like, you know, keep your identity a secret. They had his phone. Now, that's who I was texting. I was texting the cops when I went to go sell those pounds. So they were dirty cops, though. So in all reality, I don't know. If it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it's probably Josh Snyder being a rat. But I don't know for sure, you know, because could those cops have just taken his phone and started texting people with the intention of robbing drug dealers and stealing stuff? Because, and you know, I'll get to the story, but that's what they were doing at a point in time. So fast forward, I sit in jail for a month. I get my bail lifted, which was $500,000, by the way. I had a $500,000 bail. I was in there with, they put me in a violent offenders unit because I had guns and a weapon on me when I got arrested. And my bail was $500,000.
That's crazy.
For why? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess because of the volume I had, but like,
I wonder if it had anything to do with guns.
Dude. It had to,
because
I had a bunch of guns, but I didn't really get charged. Like, I've gone back. I don't really understand court dockets either. I've gone and looked at it, and I got charged with possession and manufacturing of cocaine with the intent to distribute, and possession of an instrument of crime.
An instrument of crime.
That's what it says. It doesn't say firearm. It doesn't say any of that. It says instrument of crime. And I'm thinking, like, maybe it got lessened because I ended up getting out of most of these charges later on. But I think that was like the original, I feel like that was like the original charges, was an instrument of crime. And I'm thinking maybe it was that sock full of sockets, because they, like, when they rolled up on me, they pulled out, they're like, were you going to crack me with this? I was like, I had every intention of it until I saw you were a cop. Yeah. And they're like, wow, look at that, you know? So I don't know, instrument of crime. Maybe one of these listeners can elaborate, or if any of you guys are a lawyer, what is an instrument of crime? Is it just a weapon, or is it a gun, or what? I don't fucking know, but
I wonder if it was just something basic that they worded like that for a lesser charge or for a higher charge or something. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can word things different. The charge or the sentencing could be different.
Yes, like 7 counts of firearm possession. Like, that's pretty clear. That's 7 guns, you know, and that's what I was expecting to get. Although all my guns were legal. I came from Virginia. They were all purchased in Virginia, and I was arrested in PA. But because they went into my room, and those guns were like proximity of the cocaine, you know, it all gets lumped together. Or so I thought. But so I caught a possession of instrument of crime. Whether that means 7 guns or the sock full of sockets, I'm not entirely sure. So anyway, I got a really good lawyer. My oldest brother, Russell, that I mentioned, he had used him for something. And he's this guy from New York, Peter Frankel. You can look him up. He's a pretty interesting guy. He cost me every penny that I had ever saved from drug dealing. He used to represent ODB and the New York Knicks. It was such an excessive. in retrospect, probably didn't need to spend all of my money. I spent $50,000 on this lawyer.
When you're in that position, I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter,
right?
Yeah. So I hired this, this bigwig New York lawyer. When I probably could have, I also had a number for a guy that was the fucking Better Call Saul of Philadelphia. I had a phone number for a guy like that too. And that guy was like $1,500. So I probably should have done that. But when your life's on the line, it's like,
Yeah.
$50K, this guy's got to get the job done, Anyway, sit in jail for a month. He gets my bail lifted. I finally can get out. And, typical, criminal court case, they drag it out as long as possible. Try and make sure that you're doing good, you get your shit together, postpone sentencing for as long as possible. I think it was almost 2 years before I actually went to sentencing. I think 2 or 3 months prior to sentencing, let me give you a little background on Peter, my lawyer. Very monotone, very like well-dressed, calm, collected, cool guy. Looked like $1 million, probably had $20,000 shoes on. Like one of those fucking New York, like heavy hitter lawyer guys. He was a fucking total pimp looking guy. He's very sleek. And, but very monotone, hard to read. So he calls me and he's like, Mike, I have interesting news. I'm like, okay, what's up, Peter? And he's like, so the 6 officers that were involved in your arrest have all recently been arrested themselves for, I mean, I could probably pull up the article. It was things like, of course, when I'm on air, I can't remember all the different charges, but it was like intimidation, like racketeering, extortion, like total fucking like mafia movie list of charges. So basically these cops, they were narcotics officers, like undercover narcotics officers. They were going around popping drug dealers, finding out who the bigger drug dealer was, going to the source, and then roughing them up, taking all their money. If they couldn't find one thing where a stash house was, they would take the guy to the roof of the house and hang him off the fucking side.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like full on mafia
That's crazy.
type shit. Like what you would expect in a crooked cop film, there was these dudes. So these dudes are going around robbing people, yada, 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 yada. They all get arrested. So Peter's telling me with this fucking like just emotionless, these emotionless words. I'm like, Peter, what you're saying sounds so good, but the way you're saying it, I can't fucking tell if this is good. This is good, right? He's like, well, needless to say, the police officers that arrested you would be lucky to become meter maids after this is all done.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that sounds really good. He's like, it is really good. I'm like, fuck me, dude. That's awesome.
What are the odds, man?
And it was like 3 months before sentencing, 2 months, maybe less. I don't know. So I was looking at time. I was more than likely, it was a first like major. I had like petty stuff when I was a kid, like a possession charge for weed and some underage stuff and like little bullshit. And I was more than likely going to get some sort of time, guns and almost a half a kilo of coke. It's like you're probably going to jail for at least a little bit, And I go, okay, well, so what's that mean? He goes, you have 2 options. He goes, we've got your bail lifted. So you're good right now. He's like, you can go and you can fight this case. You can go in there and plead not guilty or whatever it is. You will 100% get off without a scratch. He goes, but because I lifted your bail, I got you out of jail, and, you've been doing good, and, everyone's been nice to each other. There hasn't been this big, combative thing. The DA could take it as an insult, and he's like, if they wanted to, they could put you back in jail to wait for sentencing. He's like, they could do that.
Oh, like reverse the lifted bail.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I don't understand the legalities and the criminal, all that shit. But he's like, I got them to take you out, like measure of good faith. You're not going to run. You're not going to do this. They did you a favor and they lifted your bail. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay. It's like, they could make you sit in jail and wait till sentencing. He's like, it could be a month. It could be 6 months. He's like, they might not do it at all, but just know that it's an option. I was like, oh, that sucks. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, or you could go in there, you could take the felony and you could get 5 years of probation. And that's that. And as long as you don't fuck up, you're fine. It's like, I had tours booked. I was like, that was when I really started touring a lot. It was like during those 2 years, they like allowed me. I was like, I already have a job. You know, I don't have to sell drugs. I work in the music industry. I went and met with my probation office. I was super good boy. I got out of jail. Like on the day I got out of jail, I walked over to meet my PO and I paid all of my court fees, like on the way to her. You know, which is like, I guess that doesn't happen a lot because when I went in and talked to her, she's like, all right, you got to pay your fees. I'm like, I paid them. She's like, okay, but you got to pay all your court fees. I'm like, yeah, $2,800. I paid it. She's like, oh, okay, so you got your job. I was like, I have one. I'm like, do you want me to pee in a cup? She's like, what? No. I'm like, do you want to come to, I was like, do you want to come to my house and like look at it? I know you guys do that. And she's like, what? No. She's like, just be here once every 2 months. I'm like, okay. So she was like,
That's so crazy from what you were facing to that.
yeah. So yeah, I got this like super relaxed like probation. I mean, the Philadelphia, they're so overworked and underpaid. They have a million cases, you know, and I come in all paid up with a job, and I was like, I'm sober. I just, you know, got in trouble for selling drugs, and she's like, okay, this kid's not really going to be an issue, probably, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that part was easy, but so he gave me the two options: get out of everything, or take the felony and take the probation. And I had all these tours booked and I didn't want to chance it. I needed to make money because I just spent every penny I had on Peter Frankel, my lawyer. So I took the felony and I took, you know, and that was it. So I went and had probation for, supposed to be 5 years. I think I got it done in 3.
So I didn't realize that you had taken the felony. So you weren't able to get the guns back or
None of that. No. In retrospect, I should have fought it. I would have got off completely. And that same friend of mine that ended up in jail with me got off scot-free. Everyone affiliated, everyone for the last, those dudes apparently had been like, internal affairs have been looking into them for like 2 years, 3 years. Every case they ever touched got tossed. Everyone who was sitting in jail because of them got tossed. So I could have got off. Oh. But, you know, I'm greedy. I was like, I can't throw away the chance to make money, you know? So that was that. I later on, I hired an attorney, I think 3 years into my probation, to at least try and get me off probation early. Not that it really mattered. It was pretty simple, but I wanted to try and see if I could get my case tossed out. But the judge said because I waited too long to come back and fight, there was nothing they could do for me. I was like, dude, I didn't know.
Sounds like they just didn't want to.
I was like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've been touring for 2 years. I was under the assumption that like it was, you know, I didn't know I could get my case lifted after the fact. I didn't know I could get it tossed out. I ran into that dude I got arrested with. He's like, oh, dude, go get it tossed. I was like, oh, shit, I didn't know that was
Yeah, I mean, how would you?
Hired a lawyer immediately, you know?
Yeah.
The lawyer I hired was expensive again, and he fucking dragged ass. So it like took a year before he filed the paperwork. So they're like, oh, you waited too long. I'm like, I didn't wait shit. This guy waited, you know? But
that's a
whatever.
shame.
So I still have the felony. But
a little bit better than what it could have been.
yeah, it hasn't affected me terribly. I can't, you know, Canada's a thing. I can't really go there. I think there's a couple other.
I don't think you're missing much there.
Maybe
touring.
For work, I guess. My brother does the same jobs, though, so I just kind of like, I con him. And anytime I get a tour that goes to Canada, I'm like, hey, Dave, you're going to Canada. He's like, motherfucker, you know? So he's got all these loonies and toonies from all the times that I should have gone there. He's like, oh, what can I can't do anything with this shit, you know? He just buys like fishing gear when he goes over there, I guess. Spends his Monopoly money over there, but it did fuck me up on Airbnb. Airbnb ran a background check on me and got rid of my account.
The actual company, not like the person.
No, it's fucking bullshit, dude. That, I mean, like, how, you know, that was the you know,
that's so weird.
That was the biggest drawback of having a felony was I can't rent houses on Airbnb.
Dude, I actually didn't even know they'd do anything like that until hearing some like political commentators who are on the right will get like their accounts banned and they can't, you know, use Airbnb.
Oh, just because of their political affiliation shit? Well, apparently, don't worry, it works on works on the criminals as well. They do a background check. Yeah. So
I mean, I guess it's for a good thing, but it's I mean,
is it though?
In your case?
I don't know, man. I think it's kind of fucking bullshit. But
well, I'm just thinking if I was to rent my own house out,
On
guess
paper,
you never know who you.
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
on paper maybe I look bad, but that was also fucking over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And all my Airbnb, I would like to think that my Airbnb reviews like at least did me some kind of justice. I had all 5 stars. I'm a great tenant. Clean up after myself. I take the trash out. Don't leave a mess.
If I choose to go Airbnb, I'd rent out to you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But they didn't matter. All of a sudden, I just got an email. And
That's
they're
so
like,
weird,
your
though.
Airbnb account has been removed. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird.
And they're like, yeah, well, because you're a felon. I was like, that was 10 years ago. I was like, and my fucking charges had nothing to do with like violence or kidnapping or kid touching or like domestic abuse or anything. Like it was drugs. Who doesn't have a drug charge? I don't know. Who didn't fuck up something 10 years ago? That's crazy.
So I remember when this all happened. I remember going over your place, and everybody was celebrating you getting out. And this was around the time where I had extended all my extensions. Like it was my sentencing. I think was probably like within a month of that.
Yeah.
That was something I always felt bad at. I was like, I was so stoked and happy for you.
Yeah.
But it made it much more real for me that I was going away. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
Freaked me out. But I think I spent my last night, well, what I thought was going to be my last night as a free man was with you.
Was it really?
And you convinced me to go to an all-male stripper club. Or it was like a men's night at Gold Club.
It's a strange way to celebrate.
Was it Gold Club?
No, I know.
All I know is it was all dudes.
No, I know. No, it was Club Oz.
Okay. I remember because some photos every once in a while will pop up and it's just us with little guys and I'm just like,
Yeah, Dan Murphy came with us, right? They
Yes.
like lifted him up and took a photo with holding him.
Yeah.
It was called Hunks.
hunks. Yeah.
Hunks, and they did it at Club Oz at Front and Gerard.
Yes. Yep. That was it.
That place has changed names a billion times. I think it's just like a sports bar now.
Okay.
It used to be a real piece of shit strip club. Yeah, I remember when I remember. I didn't know that was like your last night in town, but I vividly remember going to the male strip club.
Yeah. Yeah. I had court the next morning, and
They were packing up when we walked in.
Yeah.
And when like 10 of us walked in, we're like, "You better turn those fucking lights back on." And they're like, "Oh shit."
I was afraid to be home and just sitting there with my own thoughts. I was like, I had to be out and just ignoring it.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Dude. I mean, like 2 years of waiting around, like. You'd be fine, things were cool for a minute, and then all of a sudden you'd get this like shiver of like,
Time.
I mean, I can't tell you how many little plans I put together of what country I'm going to run away to. And, I don't, dude, jail sucks. You were in for a little bit, right?
I was in for about a month
Yeah.
before bailing myself
Bro, it
out.
sucks.
It's terrible.
Jail is ass.
And what jail were you in? Were you in, I guess, Philly, right?
CF.
So I was in Camden County.
Okay. It's probably equally shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a racist guy.
Right.
I understand that people are different. People have thoughts. But I'll tell you what.
Anytime a sentence starts with, I'm not a racist guy.
You go into But you go into jail, man. It doesn't matter whether you're racist or not. You better pick a side.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And,
of course.
I mean, it was just different. It was like in my face. Like when I moved there, or when I moved there. I guess technically.
when I went on vacation there. Yeah.
Now I remember when I went there, it was overpopulated. There was no beds.
Yeah.
We're laying on the ground. There's just like bugs crawling all around.
Were you in a boat?
What's a boat?
The, like floor bed?
Oh, no. I had an extra mat that I threw in the middle, and somebody knew a family member of mine.
Oh, okay.
And they're because you walk in, everybody's interrogating you, and I'm like, I don't know how much information to give, how much not to.
Sure.
I did luck out in jail at least to where I did pick a side.
Yeah.
And it seemed very easy. It was kind of like the doors were ushered open to me.
Well,
and
the white guys saw you and they're like, "Come over here, dude."
Yeah, specifically Italian, like South Philly Italians.
Of course.
And then, and everybody knew my charges. I didn't tell anybody.
Nah, it doesn't take
And
much.
it doesn't take much. No, so there was a rumor going
White
around
boy
that
coming on the block tomorrow. Drug charges, gun charges. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
mine was almost all gun charges. 1,000 rounds of ammo, hollow points, which doesn't mean anything, but to them it was like, oh, would you kill cops? Would you, why'd you have? I wanted to tell them I went to a gun show and they were cheaper than regular ammo, so I bought them in bulk.
Yeah,
like that was it.
Yeah, I'm about efficiency, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
So there was a rumor going around that I was a hitman and a gangbanger, but nobody knew about me, so they
cares?
thought I was some.
Let it
Oh, I
ride.
let that
Yeah,
ride
of
as
course.
long as I could, and I swear that is the reason why I never got in any trouble. Because I watched other guys, like I was a big guy, but
Yeah.
that was all show. Like that's all out. That's because I liked cheeseburgers too much. It wasn't because I was some tough guy. You know what I mean?
Sure. I don't
Like-
know. I've heard some stories, man. I don't know what you've told on the air.
Actually, I think you've seen some things. All right, I guess
Let's just say you're not terribly afraid of confrontation.
no.
Yeah.
In there was different.
I tell some stories about you all the time.
In jail was a little different.
Yeah, of
I
course.
felt like I was completely out of my element.
You
and
are.
so
You are.
so everybody around me is walking around shirtless, huge buff, doing pull-ups, and
Yeah.
I'm like, they're all prepping to fight. Like that's what all this is.
They're all getting ready for prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
And luckily that rumor went around. I didn't deny it, and and that got me. I mean, to where when people were buying stuff from commissary and making food, they were always including me in it, asking, making sure I never bought anything.
Yeah.
So that was nice. But I started seeing some people treated with some violence.
Yeah.
Let's say. But
Some kid got stabbed with a pen where everyone was
my
playing what's the game that everybody plays?
play?
Card game.
I tried to learn. I don't remember what it was.
Spades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spades.
Yeah, some kid, they got into an altercation over it, and somebody got stabbed with like a big pin.
No, it's fun.
I was like, this place is so fucking stupid, dude.
Dude.
I got lucky too, though. My cellmate was like this really, really nice dude. He was in there on. He was like affiliated with a murder, like him and somebody went somewhere, and somebody ended up getting shot, and he was with them, and so he'd been in CFCF for 2 years sitting around. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, super nice guy, black dude. All my cellmates were black, but like you said, you kind of just go where you get in, where you fit in. There's like 4 white dudes on the block, so obviously I just walked and talked to them for a couple South Philly Italian guys, and then some Northeast Nazi guys, and then just like like one redneck dude from Delaware. And I spotted him because I saw a tattoo on his arm, and it looked exactly like my friend Buzz from Delaware, his style. I was like, dude, that looks like Buzz tattoo. He's like, dude, it is. I'm like, yo, so is this.
Small
So
world.
I was like, all right, cool, man. Like, I have one guy that I can talk to a little, the other white dudes, I don't know. They were weird. This was a weird situation. But yeah, my cellmate was cool. He like snuck in tobacco, and we'd like smoke cigarettes into the toilet, blow the smoke down the toilet and shit.
They're resourceful there.
Bro, I learned how to make a lighter with a battery and bread ties.
Wait, with batteries?
With a AA battery and bread ties, metal bread ties.
Oh wow.
You like put it on the ends of each end, and then you kind of like let them touch. And you put a piece of paper there, kind of lights it.
I seem to do it with an outlet and lead from the inside of a pencil. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Interesting.
Like putting them in and then laying it across, it would get real hot.
Yo, I thought did you see them move the water underneath the doors? The hot water?
No.
Dude, I thought that was, and it's like probably, I probably shouldn't be impressed by it because it's not that complicated, but they would take a bread bag and they would, be like, hey, we need, if we were going to make like a ramen or whatever, like, hey, somebody would be out on the block because it was like 18-hour lockdown all the time. It was 18 and 6 or something like that. It sucked. We'd be in the cell all the fucking time. But they'd be like, yo, I need hot water. And somebody would be out there mopping. Be like, I got you. And he'd go fill up a bread bag with hot water. And they would take it and they would just slide it under the door. They would like leave it half air, half water. And they would like put a little bit under and then they would just push it and the water would come under the door. And you'd have
Look at that.
yeah, I was like, whoa. And they're like, it's just water in a bag. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know, but that looks crazy. So,
Yeah, I guess you got to get resourceful in there.
yes.
But yeah, I wanted to get out. I saw a kid come in. He was a very timid guy, and he went through what you see in the movies. And I was like, this is just jail. I was like, I need to get out
Just
of here.
tormenting him and shit.
Yeah.
Knocking him out, taking his
Everything, beating him up in the bathrooms.
Oh, really?
and
They're like fucking him
oh
up?
yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get that when I was in there. Like
I got nothing until this was like the last like 3 or 4 days. I was like, this is getting weird. I want to be out.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't have, maybe it's, being like a normal sized person and not being like super scared. Like obviously I was scared, it's like, I don't want to be in there. This sucks. Like, this is not me. I'm I don't want to be like, I'm better than this, but I was like, come on, man. This is the level of ignorance in those fucking jails sometimes is so,
No, you're right.
I live in a bad neighborhood in Philly and it's like, they're dumb as hell. And then you go to the jail and you're like, God, they're dumb as hell. Like, Not all of them, obviously, but dude, it's pretty dumb in there. It's pretty.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I don't care.
I definitely
Yeah.
never felt like I belonged in there. I mean, other than the charges, but there
Right.
was like no comparison
I
with me
certainly
and anybody in
did
there.
belong in there. I fucked up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I got caught just like everybody
I
else.
just meant
in
I
there. So
didn't
maybe
feel
I'm
like the
dumb
level.
too, you know. But like, yeah, no, I mean like, but it's a product of environment or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's like uneducated, doing dumb shit, doing crime to make money. It's like go to school or make $1,500 a day selling shit on the corner. You know, it's like kind of a no brainer if you come from poverty. But, you know, I don't know. It was pretty dumb in there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got you.
But, they saw my charges too, though. They were like, "Oh, man, you had some weight." You know, there was this one dude. I thought he was fucking with me. I thought I was like gonna have an issue, and there's this like goofy black dude, kind of weird, and he'd like stare at you all crazy. And I forgot what I was saying. He'd be like, "What's up, dude?" He'd come up to me and go, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, "What's up, man?" You know, and I like look over at whoever else. I'm like, "Is this guy fucking with me? Why is he talking to me like that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's can't get right."
That's what?
I'm like, "What did you call him?" They're like, "Can't get right." We call him can't get right. I'm like, "Is that because he can't get right?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, he's crazy, isn't he? They're like, "Yeah, he's like mentally unstable."
I thought you could tell he was doing some kind of like surfer white boy
I thought
thing.
he was. I thought he was taunting me.
Yeah.
I was like, "Do I have to fight this guy?" They're like, "No. He's crazy." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." So and they're like, he's like, "Dude, you had a lot of drugs, huh?" I'm like, I did at the time. Yeah, he's like, "You got to introduce me to your guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know about that, man. Maybe." He's like, "Bro, what do you need?" I had court every Monday, and Monday is when they would bring commissary. So for 3 weeks, I missed commissary because they wouldn't deliver it if you weren't there because it would just get stolen. So I bought commissary every week, and then every Monday they'd be like, "Mike, you got to go to court today." I'm like, "Fuck, I don't get any of my shit." So I kept missing it. My cellmate was cool. He would like, you know, there was none of that like, "I'm gonna leave a honey bun on your pillow and you're gonna owe me." They would just be like, "Hey, dude, we're making Chi-Chis and shit. Like, you know, you want some?" I'm like, "Dude, that'd be great." I was like, "You know, I keep missing." He's like, I know. You have court every Monday. I know, I get it." He's like, "You know, get me back if you can." I'm like, "Cool, no sweat." And then but can't get right was like, "Hey, yo, what do you need?" I'm like, I was like, "I keep missing commissary." He's like, "Yo," so he brought me all these like honey buns and ramens and stuff. And he's like, "Maybe you introduce me to your guy." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe. Let me get your number. I'll think about it." You know. So I had, you know, I was like, I'm not gonna act like I'm not gonna say no to the guy who's just bringing me free shit.
Yeah.
You know? So obviously, I never introduced that guy to my guy. That dude was unstable.
Probably a good move.
But yeah, dude, you know, I finally was home. Well, not home. I was finally not in court on a Monday, and I got my commissary, and it was like a fucking 50-gallon trash bag full of shit from all the fucking. I just kept filling out. I had nothing else to do. I'm like, "Oh, sweet commissary sheet." I had friends put money on my books. I had all this cash back home still, like a little bit, you know. I had a few $100s on my books. I'm like, fucking 20 honey buns, blah blah blah. You know, I had all this shit. I got it on a Monday and I got released on a Wednesday. So I went up near my cellmate who had been super generous. I was like, "Hey, dude, here you go." He's like, "Whoa."
That's awesome.
I was like, "I don't need any of this.
Yeah.
Have it. Go for it. Do whatever you want." I mean, it must have been $300 worth of shit from commissary. So yeah.
That's like the world to to anybody in there though.
I hope he's doing good. He seemed like a really nice guy. You know, like I don't know his backstory. I don't know. He seemed like a pretty genuine dude. You know, but whatever.
So you get out of there.
Yeah. I go get my car out of impound because the cops told me it was fine, and it got picked up. It wasn't fine. It just got towed from the Piazza lot and sat in an impound for a month.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it sure does. It's like $1,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, those cops were fucking such pricks. But they got acquitted on everything, by the way.
They did?
Of course, dude.
The only newspaper article I have is somewhere on my hard drive, and it was like I did like a screen grab of the
law goes both ways, brother.
But it was when they were going down. It's when they got arrested.
They all got arrested, but they never got indicted or anything or whatever the follow up is.
Yeah.
They never got like charged.
That's crazy.
But my very first court hearing when I went in, they read off like the summary of everything, like all right, guns, this many drugs, and they go, and $3,000 in cash. I just bit my tongue, like fucking cunts, you know. My lawyer's like, he's like, that one stung a little bit, didn't it? I'm like, you got there. He's like, well, how much was it again? I was like, it was more like $17,000.
Yeah.
So those dudes pocket like 12 grand.
I believe it. I mean,
And they probably still, I don't think I doubt they had to pay anything. They all got arrested, but nothing ever happened. So I doubt, they're still cops. I've seen them.
I had somewhere less than $1,000 on me, like in my pocket. And that never happened. Never went anywhere. They even stole my headphones.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pieces of shit.
Yeah. when you first got arrested, what was going through your mind? Were you like, hey, I'm done? Were you thinking like long term, like I'm effed, like everywhere? This is going down.
When I first got arrested, no, I was like, I was kind of, they were talking about shit. They're like, we can make this real easy. I'm like, yeah. I was like, dude, I fucking, I watch Law and Order. I know what's happening. Like, you guys want me to snitch and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I dragged it out for a little bit so I could smoke a cigarette. And, finally I was like, I'm not saying shit to you guys. You take me to, let's go. I just need to give me a lawyer and get me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm driving around with you fucking pricks, smush sandwich between two of them in the backseat of an undercover car. And they're like, what about blah, 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 and, what about so-and-so, and what about so, and like all these people that, I guess Josh had snitched on, or, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I was like, let me think about it a little bit, though. Where are my cigarettes, And I was like, yeah, I'm not recalling anything, so, they were kind of nice at first, and then they started to not be very nice anymore. I was like, all right, I think it's time to wrap this up. And I was like, you can take me down to the station, but I was like being, kind of cocky or whatever, but then they're like, oh, we just went over to your house over at yada yada. I'm like, oof, that's gonna be a problem. I knew what was in there. I had just, gotten re-upped, and I had already stepped on it and made it more. So I was like, there's a lot in the house right now.
So I didn't realize.
Then I started worrying a little bit.
I didn't realize they didn't have a warrant at the time.
No,
That's crazy.
They just scared. They just scared my roommate into letting them in.
I remember hearing the account from her, and it's terrifying. Especially when you're just sitting at home and having that. Have you been through a raid at all ever?
I wasn't. No. Oh well. No. So they came back like a week later. I guess there was some sort of. I guess they were trying to seal off my house, but there was some sort of miscommunication. 20 of them knocked on my door a week later, and they were like, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is going on? I just got out of jail. I was like, my lawyer, blah, blah. I showed them all the papers, and they're like, oh, okay. And that was kind of, they let it go. It was super bizarre. I don't know. They showed up to my house to they were going to raid it again. I was like, you guys already did this.
That's so weird.
I don't know. Yeah. It's it's like the Philadelphia
I don't understand any of it.
system. That's so fucked up. I know Schlack got pulled over on the, one of those toll bridges, a year prior to when I got arrested. He got pulled over on one of the bridges going into Jersey or coming back, and he had a warrant from 15 years ago that had been squashed. It was done, and for whatever reason, it came up in the system, and he went to jail and sat in there for a month until they figured it out. So, relying on them having their shit together, I wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
But he sat in jail for a fucking month for a warrant that had been reconciled.
I've heard lots of stories about that with warrants.
Yeah.
And I don't know a solution, but obviously
I don't think there is one.
Nobody's communicating properly, and
hopefully your shit actually gets reconciled. Because if not, it sounds like you can just kind of get arrested whenever if there's some sort of whoever didn't push the fucking the button on the keyboard correctly that day to say, has this been sorted out? Yes. They went to lunch. They didn't hit it, so you could go to jail.
Yeah, I had warrants from a cross country road trip I did. I got a couple tickets. Completely forgot to pay them.
Right.
When I came back.
Out of state, out of mind.
Yeah. Paid them off. Everything was good.
Sure.
I thought about it because they, all the extra fees. I was broke at the time. And I was like, I don't never need to go back to that state.
Montana, fuck you.
And I was like, you know what? I just got to do it. Just whatever. So I paid them all off.
Yeah.
And there were still warrants out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I caught wind of it before. I forget how, but something happened. I found out there was warrants in my name.
Yeah.
And the phone number to the one courthouse was the wrong phone number on the website.
Right.
And it kept bringing me to this fab shop.
Right.
And I called up so many times over the course of a few months thinking, there's no way this is happening. I got to try that number again.
Where's the money going?
Yeah. Finally,
it's not going to the website builder. That's for sure.
Well, let me tell you how good this guy was. This guy
What, at the fab
is
shop?
the owner of the fab shop.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy I'm calling
He
every
gets these
couple of
phone calls
weeks.
all the fucking time, probably.
He said no.
Oh.
And I said, I'm looking at the website. I said, I'm telling you, this is the number. He goes, well, that's my number. I was like, well, that's what, and this is some little rinky dink town. I was like, well, that is on their website as their phone number.
He's also, well, I'm actually also the judge. Yeah.
He goes, well, what are you trying to do? Because he got sick of me calling him. I said, well, this is what's happening. There's a warrant. They're not accepting this. I have this. He gave me the ability, or I ended up either emailing him or mailing out some stuff to him. And then I called him up when it got there, and when he got it, and he actually
took it to the courthouse.
Took it to the courthouse for me and got it straightened out. And I was like, I owed that guy so much. I was so grateful. But
do you need any fabrication done? Because it sounds like that's the dude to talk to.
Well, yeah. If I want to, send my stuff, clear across the country.
Why not? Yeah. How amazing is that?
He was the man.
What a nice dude.
Yeah. He saved me some trouble, I'm sure, in the future.
Dude, I got a warrant for a fucking jaywalking ticket.
City?
No, not in Philly. You don't get jaywalking tickets. It was in Austin, Texas. I was out there for something. This is like 15 years ago. My buddy and I were like walking across the street. Cop pulls up on us. He's like, hey. I'm like, well, what's up? He's like, you guys just crossed back there? We're like, yes, sir. He's like, all right, that was jaywalking. I'm like, all right. What's up? Like, we live in Philly. It's like,
Yeah, that happened to me out in California.
Dude,
they didn't do anything, but
this guy was like, all right, well, that's illegal. And we're like, all right, come on, seriously, dude. Like, why? What's up? Like, what's the problem here? He's like, jaywalking is the problem here. And you guys just did it. You're each getting a ticket. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Jaywalking?
That's so weird.
I thought that was made up.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a real thing. He gives us each $100 ticket.
Oh, that's a lot.
I was like, bro, what the fuck? I'm gonna go. My buddy owned a tattoo shop in Texas, and we walked back over. I was like, bro, I'm not paying this stupid fucking thing. I threw it in the trash. Fucking never thought about it again until I got a letter like 3 years later, and my fine was now like $400, and I had a warrant out for my arrest in Texas. I was like, are you kidding me? I think at some point I tried to I think I thought about it like a month or two after I got home. I was like, I should probably pay that thing. I tried to get in touch, and it was this super convoluted system to pay. Like, you had to write them a letter, and they would send you a letter back, and then you would send them a check to pay. And I was like, all right, what? Forget this. This is fucking stupid. But there was a record of me trying to pay it. I emailed somebody 3 years prior, and then I got that warrant 3 years later. I was like, I'm not paying $400. This is fucking stupid. And I called their office. I'm like, do I have a warrant? And they're like, yes, you do. I was like, I tried to pay you 3 years ago. They're like, well, did you do the letter? I'm like, absolutely not. I was like, I owed you $100. I was willing to pay you $100. And now you're sending me a warrant, and I have to do that. I'm like, here's my credit card information. It's all on an email. I'm like, take it and do what you got to do. I'm not paying $300, so that's bullshit. And I think they ended up just charging me the $100 and letting it roll.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize you can fight that stuff. I remember having to go up to the Filbert area in Philly. Yeah, I had close to $4,000, or it was $3,000 or $4,000 in parking tickets.
Yeah,
when I had my Harley, I would just park it anywhere.
Of course. And
I would come out to a ticket, and I'd throw it on the ground, and I'd pull out.
Absolutely.
Nothing matched, so I was like, this is never going to come back to me, but I guess it did. Eventually, when you're young and dumb, you think, you're invincible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went, and it was a long time that I had that. And, what happened was I got caught running from the police on the bike on South Street.
Yeah.
What really happened was it was a traffic jam. I drove up on the sidewalk, and some beat cop was walking around.
Total normal thing to do in Philadelphia, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. He jumps out and puts his hands out to stop me.
Yeah.
And I revved it real hard and just right through him. He jumped to the side. But I don't know if I remember at the time if it was a cop or I just remember someone jumping out and I just revved it.
Whatever
and
it is,
jumped out.
you're in the fucking way. I'm trying to ride here, dude. Get out of the way.
Yeah. So I remember I went. This is a story I never told, but this is the reason why I wound up having to pay everything. I almost went to jail. So South Street at the time, this was right after the flash mobs became big.
Yeah.
So there was so many cops all around. So
there was one in Temple last night.
Last night, they're always fun. But
shots fired.
I start I start zigzagging through, going towards south.
Yeah.
And I'm going left, right, straight up. Anyway, it got to a point where I'm going, this is only for like 2 or 3 blocks away.
This is after you almost ran over the cop?
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I start riding straight down south, and every cross street, I would stop and I'd look left and right, and there was cops blocking the road. I was like, how is this happening so like instantly?
Was it for you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I assumed it was at first. And then I was like, this can't be. So I pull up to the next street.
Was it like a Saturday?
This was like a Friday or Saturday night. Yeah. So I pull up to the next street. There's 2 cops blocking the road. I pull up to the next one. I look right. There's a cop. I look left. There's nobody. So I hop up on the sidewalk and I just start flying down. And then as soon as I got close, everybody pulled up. And the cop that I almost hit, I guess he had a bicycle.
Yeah.
So he comes, he goes, oh, you thought you were faster than a radio, didn't you? And I was like, no, man. I was like, you jumped out in front of my bike, almost got hit.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're negligent.
like, what are you talking about?
That was a bad judgment call, officer.
So I was like, I don't know where I got this in me, but I was like, I didn't even know you guys were chasing me. I was like, I didn't even know I was running. I was like, why do you think I stopped and pulled over just now when I saw you? I'm shaking, like, like, trying to keep it cool. And then he's like, yeah, no, not going to work. You're going down for this and that and this and, whatever. Where's your license? They pull out my wallet, and I had this wallet that was so tightly packed. I had bags of Coke and ketamine inside, like between the little pockets. They couldn't get their fingers in there. So they just gave me my wallet back, and I was like, oh my god.
You hit him with the fucking George Costanza wallet, and they just couldn't operate it and figure it out.
Dude, I was sweating bullets when they grabbed it. And they just did such a bad job. It was so emotional for them. Like this one guy was so upset and like, so like, you're going down for this. Anyway, it winds up being a big scene.
Yeah.
And I had no license to ride a bike.
Is this like when you lived on South Street?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I think I was on Mountain Street maybe at the time, or Carpenter. Anyway, they start checking. I'm like, I had no license. I have no insurance.
Yeah. Typical motorcyclist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bike wasn't registered. Like anything that I was supposed to do, I didn't do.
Right.
I had an expired permit that I kept every like 6 months or so. I'd go and spend $10 at the DMV, and they'd renew it because I was lazy.
Yeah. They did away with that now. I think it's like you got 2 years.
Oh, really?
Tops. Yeah.
So I still don't have one.
Nice.
And now I've got 6 bikes. So okay. I don't know.
It's fine.
I've been pulled over. Nobody seems to say anything at this point.
It's great.
So one day it's going to bite me in the rear end, but it hasn't yet.
Yeah, worry about that later.
Yeah. So, so I start telling, or they get like a higher up, some kind of manager, or whatever. It comes out, not manager. I don't know what you call them.
Yeah.
But a higher up comes out.
Yeah.
And everybody's livid except I'm calm as a cucumber, sitting there with my hands cuffed on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. Guy comes up. I was like, "Hey man," I was like, "Can we just talk for a minute?" Like, because he's asking me. I said, "Can we just talk like away from these guys? Like they're so angry and nobody seems to be listening to what's going on." He goes, "Yeah, what's up?" So I was like, "Listen, I've got nothing on me." I was like, "Listen, my thing's expired." I started explaining myself. I said, "Listen," I was like, "I just walked in to such and such a bar, and I saw my high school sweetheart. We're planning to get married. We're engaged." I was like, I just saw her with my best friend, like in the back, and I was like, I couldn't handle it. And I was like, look up my record. I've got multiple arrests, all for fighting and simple assaults, things like that. I was like, and it's all in this area. I was like, I am trying to straighten out my life.
Yeah, I had to get out of here.
I was like, I knew that if I stayed, I was going to end up in jail, and I'm not trying to be that person. So I hopped on my bike, and I got out of here as soon as possible. Next thing I know, I'm being pulled over. I stopped immediately. I got off the bike. They seemed to think I was running, and I just caught this guy, and I'm not trying to condone this.
I am.
All right. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Falls for it.
Nice.
Takes me out the cuffs.
That's like Trailer Park Boys. Every time they talk to Officer Green, like, I'm actually a cop. I'm a cop.
Yeah. So the cop on the bike is yelling now. And out there, the cops are arguing.
Yeah.
As this higher up is telling them like to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
So they're arguing and screaming, and he's like, "No way, no way! He tried to kill me." And so they calm him down.
Oh, Jerry, you're overreacting again. He always does this. Yeah, right.
They uncuff me.
Yeah.
The guy goes, "Listen, I got to give you something." He goes, "Here's a helmet violation." He goes, you should be able to beat this in court." I was like, "Okay."
What's a helmet violation?
I wasn't wearing a helmet and I didn't have a license.
Yeah, but
when you have a permit, you have to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Okay. I said, "Okay."
Yeah, sure.
So, I I hop back on the bike and I just leave. I'm like, there's no way. But because of that, I had to go to court and then I had to fight. But I ended up negotiating those thousands of dollars down to like pretty much the original amount of the tickets. It was less than half. It was crazy.
That's great.
That was the whole point of this.
I used to do that with all, like, when I was a kid, and I'd like rack up a bunch of fucking debt on credit, and I'd wait years. I didn't care about credit at the time. Every once in a while, I'd have this like little burst of like, yeah, I'll see if we can get rid of some of this credit. And I'd call up the creditors. They would call me all the time, like, hey, you want to make a deal? You know?
Oh yeah,
all the time.
I learned that a couple years ago. I got my credit to shoot right up.
Oh yeah, I had like $2,000, and nothing crazy, but I had like $2,000 in debt, and I think I got it down to like $600-700.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like, yeah, I guess we can take care of this. Or you could just I'll never talk to you for another 5-6 years.
Yeah.
I was like, so you might as well strike while the iron's hot, my friend. I was like, I have money to pay you right now, but it's just not as much as you want. So,
Yeah.
whatever. Who cares? They buy that shit for pennies on the dollar anyway.
So, like a week after that happened, like I got out, I went home, and I was like, nobody's going to believe that this just happened. Like this is just too crazy. So, I was over at Ali's house.
Yeah.
We were working on his bike or something. He had a neighbor that used to just screw with him. He swore his neighbor was like putting nails in his bike and stuff. And the guy was a jerk. So I believed it. So we were over there doing a repair again, and I'm trying to calm him down. Like, yeah, don't retaliate. Like, this is just gonna get worse. He's literally your neighbor.
Ollie would have fucked his ass up too.
Oh, he was ready.
Yeah.
The guy never left his apartment either. He was like a hermit, but he'd come out.
It's probably for his own safety.
So I'd leave Ali's house, and he was right on a cross street. So I left his house, and as soon as I crossed over, lights flash, and I get pulled over. And I'm like, oh, come on. So I pull over, and the guys are not getting out of the car. They're like yelling to me to come over. I was like, all right. So I get off the bike, and I walk over to them like, this is real weird. They're like, hey, man, we just wanted to see how you're doing. And I was like, I'm doing all right. What's going on? They're like, oh, we were there the other night. We want to make sure you're right. How are you and your girl doing? And dude, I just had to remember the whole lie, and it caught me so off guard.
And was this in the same area, like South Philly area? Or? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not close enough that it would have made sense to.
That's what I'm
meet
saying.
These
That's
guys.
kind of what I'm saying. Like,
no,
were they just in some weird spot that wasn't really in the same area?
I don't understand how they
or something like that.
Yeah, how they recognized me, saw me. I was suspicious, thinking like maybe they followed me. I don't know. But it was just the time was too serendipitous. Like I literally pulled out from his house.
Played it off though. You're like, oh yeah.
I told him we were getting back together and we're working through it. And I was like, it's too much time to just give up for one mistake. I was like, but it's really difficult. I was like, really thank you guys for asking. But like, what the heck, man? It's like,
how weird is that?
I was thinking to myself, like, are they messing with me? Like, do they know I lied, or are they genuinely like nice guys that
they're not
are actually asking, like, what is going on here?
They're messing with you 100% probably. Yeah.
Well,
I'd be shocked if they turned out to be genuine. But
the way they sounded is really what got me. Like, I mean, it was like not coming over, like making me come over to them, hanging out, like just I don't know. The whole thing was
come
weird.
up on you, I guess.
Yes,
yeah.
The whole thing was weird. But I never heard about that ever again.
Huh. Just had to pay off that shit.
Yeah. I only ran one more time after that. It was actually
I got one more in me.
Yeah. Now I was borrowing. You remember? Oh, Eric. I don't even know if Eric knows this. Mm-hmm. Eric Nolay.
Yeah.
So I was borrowing his. He had like this little red sedan, little beater car. He was riding around. I borrowed it. I went to go pick up our friend Alex Raftis. Mm-hmm. Alex Raftis is like.
I remember Alex.
Nerd to the max. Yeah. Like
super nice guy.
Super nice guy. Yeah, but like.
Good guy.
Good guy. So like something happened, and I was like,
he was pretty involved in Jesus with you guys back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's the one who didn't stray too far from the path.
I don't know. Yeah.
We don't have to put his business out there.
We all had our issues. Mm-hmm. But no, I forget what happened. We were like going right by City Hall, and I ran a light, and I saw the lights go on. And the cop, like, it was going the opposite way. He turns around to come. I was like, Alex, I'm sorry. I can't get pulled over. Like,
he's like, oh, God.
So he's, like, laughing at first. And then, like, 3 blocks later, he's, like, gripping his seat. Like, I can't believe this is happening. I was like, this isn't my car. I can't get pulled over. Now, at this point, like, I have to keep running. So I just was driving towards Center City. Just every street, I made either a left or a right. And I zigzagged and then made it all the way around the city to home. I ran for so much longer than I needed to. Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I looked over at him and I was like, hey man, we made it. And he was like,
that's huge.
I don't know. He looked like he had seen a ghost. I've never seen anybody so terrified in my life.
I've never ran from the cops.
No, it's stupid. I wouldn't recommend it.
No doubt.
I know I got away the once at least, but
I feel like I could do it though on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could.
On a
It's
dirt
just,
bike especially.
I guess, like the ticket I would have gotten wouldn't have been worth. Like for me to really ever do that again in my life, I have to be facing something that's so terrible that this would be a much lesser
Yeah.
thing to.
I always think about it when I go out on the dirt bike and I ride places where I'm not necessarily supposed to, and I was like, bro, if a cop tries to roll up on me like on the trails, because I'll ride the spot in North Philly sometimes, and you're definitely not supposed to ride there, but it's kind of one of those places where all the kid like the hood rat kids up there and the wheelie boys, like the ones that occasionally veer off street and like go play in the dirt, like that's where you go because it's the closest place. It's the only place other than what's that place up near Tacony? What are those trails up there?
I don't know the name.
You know what I'm talking about. There's a big park system up there close to the Delaware, but this is not it. This is over in like almost like Hunting Park area. There's all these trails and shit. It's pretty fun. You should go ride some. Do you have a dirt bike still?
I have a few.
Yeah, cool. So
You want one? I'm trying to sell a few.
no, I got Vinny's the other day.
Oh wait, the one he just got?
Yeah, it's Vinny. Dude. He doesn't hold on to a vehicle for more than a week or two.
Yeah.
But I always say to myself, I'm like, the cops in Philly are riding around on like what DRZ 400s and shit like that. I was like, dude, I would smoke one of them on the trails.
I don't think those guys are good trail riders.
I'd like to find out, dude. I know some. I mean, like I know those trails over there pretty good. So
I wonder if their bikes have are street tires. They probably got like a 70-30 or something, or 50-50.
50-50s or something. Yeah, I bet you they're all right riders, but can you do the gnarly hill climb at the end that gets out and goes through the projects? I doubt it. I'd like to see it.
We got a spot like that where the kids from Chester go, and it's
over here.
Yeah, it's like a 1 minute ride from.
I know
my
what
house.
you're talking about. Yeah. There's a spot over here, that we used to go ride. Do you remember Johnny? You know Johnny?
Last name?
Cameretta.
I recognize the name. I can't picture face, but anyway.
Lived over down this way on McDade.
Mm-hmm.
There's a creek.
It's right off of McDade.
Yeah, there's a creek that runs down that way. We would go ride back there all the time. There's little trails and stuff. You're like close to the airport right here, right? You're near the airport. 12
minutes.
I was gonna say because I know there used to be a lot of airport trails. There's a bunch of
dirt bike
trails by the airport that everyone would go to back in the day. I know the cops kind of busted it up years ago, and it's not really accessible. But there's
a lot of them were blocked off.
There's still parts of it though, that are like exist. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something.
I think that's on it's like Hog Road. What's that one that goes around behind the airport?
Yeah, it's something like that. I went to try and find them one day, and
I have too.
I couldn't figure it out.
The few spots I found were like blocked off.
Yeah,
like where the chain or where the fence was broken up. They had piled up a bunch of stuff to block anybody from getting in there.
You couldn't get through it.
No,
not easily.
Not with a bike.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd be a little reluctant to ride around Chester. I'm always honestly a little on edge riding up in North Philly too, but I just don't. You just don't stop moving.
Yeah,
if you see two kids on a quad riding together, get the fuck away from them. Get out of there.
Yeah, I don't trust anybody
because those two kids each want their own bike. So.
Riding the same one.
Two kids on one quad. Yeah, just avoid that.
We gotta love the. Can I try it? Can I ride that?
Yeah,
can I help on?
Of course.
Yeah,
I'm out of here. Fuck you. Yeah. I ran into a kid up in the trails in North Philly. He was like riding around on like a little 100cc dirt bike, some or other, young black kid. He was ripping around. I went up and said hi to him. We were bullshitting. I was like, you ever have problems up here? He's like, nah, with the cops and shit. I'm like, nah. He's like, nah, never. I'm like, what about other riders? He's like, nah, I always keep this. He pulls his gun out of his little purse thing on the side. He's like, nah, we're good. I'm like, I'll ride with you for a little bit. You seem cool. That's funny. You seem all right.
This purse things are nice.
Yeah,
I just picked up one.
Perfect for a gun.
Yeah. I got mine for wipies and things.
Yeah,
definitely no guns. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it and I was looking at patches and I was looking at don't tread on me. My wife was like, maybe you should get something that says this is for my kids and not what's in there.
Yeah. Number one daddy.
I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I should get number one daddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but getting back to the music stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Call the Paramedics. Was that the first band of that magnitude that you were in?
Yeah, I don't know if magnitude is the word I would use,
Well,
but
I heard about you guys from FX Craziest Videos.
oh yeah,
That
yeah,
was the
yeah.
first time before I knew you.
I always forget about that. Yeah, we were on that. We were on that TV show. Was it? Was that what it was called?
Well, it was on FX, and this was like back in like early YouTube days when everybody was looking for like the wild clips,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
world's craziest
yeah.
videos.
We had one on there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Our buddy Chris was like this behemoth of a man, like born in the wrong century. Should have been a gladiator. So just like a 6'4" power lifter guy, and he just he was like kind of like a gentle giant. And he always hated getting in fights, but I think it was mostly because he always got in so much trouble after he got into a fight. Because anytime he would hit somebody, he would break their jaw. Every punch broke somebody's jaw. I think he broke at least 2 jaws that he got charged for.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, so he's like paying what's it called when you have to pay?
like a restitution.
Yeah, I was going to say reparations, but that's a totally different thing. But yeah, restitution for like 2 hospital bills that are probably going to haunt him till the day he dies. But yeah, it was some show. No, I was actually not in the band at that time, but it was the Atlantic City Surf and Skate Festival or something.
I can't remember.
I don't know. But it was right before I joined the band. There's everyone throwing fireworks into the crowd and fights breaking out. And Chris went up and fucking just laid into this kid, fucking smashed his head.
That's crazy.
And somebody got a really good video of it, and it ended up on all these, like you said, FX Wildest videos or whatever it was.
Or a shocking video, something like that. Whatever one of those old shows was.
Yeah, it was a pretty violent band. It was like it was troublemakers, man. It was like we joined that band and toured around the country, and a lot of fights, and that Bad Luck 13 was around. So they've been around forever, but there was more like their crowd would cause start fights and problems and light things on fire and fireworks in the show, and Bad Luck 13 riot extravaganza was exactly that. It'd be small scale riots inside of venues. Call the Paramedics was the opposite. It was Schlack attacking everybody in the crowd while we would play. So that usually led to some kind of a fight or something like that. It was a bunch of like bullheaded assholes in the band. So like we'd be on tour and somebody would get mouthy or do something silly and they'd get fucked up and we'd have to like throw everything in the van and take off.
Did that ever affect places you could play? Like, did that eventually catch up to the van or to the band?
Not like legally, but
As far as venues go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's people that did their research and they're like, oh, "Fuck no, dude!" Like we got plenty of shows like get canceled before we got there, or hey, you guys aren't coming back, or things like that.
Did you try any tactics to get around that stuff?
I like Bad Luck used to like book shows under different names.
That's
and
what,
stuff
yeah.
like that. No, not really. Kind of, no. I would say no. We just we played where we could, and we had enough promoter friends that were made enough bad decisions that we could still get shows. So
That's cool.
when that band kind of fizzled out, there's other little projects, and then Eat the Turnbuckle kind of came from that.
Yeah.
And that was the band that actually I guess would be the most successful, if that's what you want to call it.
Sure.
I'd say it was.
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, financially, no, not at all. It's a metal band, and it's like very middle of the road as far as like crowd wise and stuff. But it started to get some steam, and we toured all over the world and went to Europe a couple times. And I guess we should jump into Eat the Turnbuckle a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
please. That's what I wanted to jump into. I mean,
Yeah.
before we get started, I remember in the trailer to the documentary, you had touted. What would you say? It was the rock and roll, most violent rock and roll. I forget the quote, but I remember seeing that and I was like, I'm so stoked to watch this.
Eat the Turnbuckle. I guess it's those, insane deathmatch rock and roll thrash metal band.
With wrestling.
So wrestling. Yeah. So the premise of the band is it's a bunch of guys from Bad Luck 13 and a bunch of guys from Call the Paramedics, and it's both bands that were super violent, and the crowd would either cause a ruckus or the band would cause a ruckus to the crowd or the venue, or ultimately it was 2 bands that didn't have longevity because they just wouldn't eventually be allowed to play anywhere anymore because of the disturbance. So Eat the Turnbuckle was born, which was all of the same shit, but it was focused around wrestling. So it was like a thrash hardcore, genre, and all of the songs, the band was named after was George the Animal Steel, and all the songs are about wrestling and ECW and deathmatch and old school WWF and that kind of stuff. And the band during the show, each person had characters, and we would have gimmicks, and we'd have arguments and confrontations with each other, which would spawn into, a match or a gimmick of some sort. I'd get into an argument with someone, or Schlack would get into an argument with Jay Goldberg, the singer, and they would go at it, and they'd fight each other through the crowd. It was like a no-ring wrestling, like deathmatch thing that would work its way into the crowd, smashing each other off the bar. Somebody would get a bundle of light tubes hit over their face, and then they'd get picked up and powerbombed through a table or something.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it was more than just like picking fights and like pushing around. I mean, this was like, this is violent stuff. Like, watch this, it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, if you're familiar with deathmatch wrestling, you know that it's real pain, it's real glass, and fucking broken light tubes and tacks and razor blades, and it's all that stuff is very real. It's still like just like wrestling, it's choreographed, it's scripted. We know where we're going to go and when we're going to do it, but the violence that comes from it is very much real. The lacerations, the cuts, the broken bones, all that stuff is very real. So each member would have their character. We would have other people come. We would eventually, as the band grew in popularity, we would have wrestlers come, and it would be Eat the Turnbuckle versus whoever, the Necro Butcher or whatever other wrestler, So they would come and we'd fight with them, and we were usually the marks. So like the wrestler that was having a match with us, they would typically win. So we had Necro Butcher come to the Guarbecue for Odorous Urungus's memorial. Guar, Odorous Urungus was a singer, and when he passed, we played that Guarbecue, the one that the year he died. So we had Necro Butcher come to that one, and we battled Necro Butcher. He's Necro Butcher, if you're not familiar, is this big gnarly redneck from West Virginia that would fight. He would do all his matches barefoot. And like this is, I mean, like full on barefoot.
Yeah.
The ground of these matches is covered in tacks and broken glass and all. And this dude's wrestling barefoot. He's missing a bunch of his front teeth. He's smashing somebody in the head. He took our one guy Jabber, or TGO, which stands for the Gorgeous One. He was like he did backup vocals, and he did like crowd control and intimidation and stuff like that. And him and Necro Butcher are going at it. And Jabber's on the ground on his knees getting hit with something, and Necro Butcher comes up and starts gnawing on his forehead, but he doesn't have any teeth, so he's biting his bleeding head with his gums, like shit, just kind of wacky antics. But yeah, that band got pretty popular, and we met some of the right people in Europe and started getting tours booked out there and traveled around the world. And
I was curious, what kind of reception did you get out there?
Really good. Europeans loved us. I guess they don't have quite as much. They don't have a lot of stuff like that.
That's why I'm asking. I'm like, that had to be so foreign.
Notoriously violent. You could probably find a band that does some form or another of like self-mutilation in most states here. Ours was just a little bit more well put together. Because it was 5 of us. There's been a million bands where the singer cuts their head open and bleeds, and like punk rock bands from back in the day cutting themselves with glass. Iggy Pop, for fuck's sake, he's massive.
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, I think he used to cut himself with like a broken bottle. Everyone, I don't know if he did it every time, but he's definitely done it. And, there's plenty of guys. What's his name from Dimitri or whatever from like Dillinger Escape Plan? He cut his face open on like the Grammys and was hanging upside down from a fucking hanging, Grammy sign or something. So there's plenty of people that have hurt themselves, but this was 5 big idiots all doing it under the guise of wrestling.
Which was, I always thought it was so awesome. It was so cool.
It was awesome.
But it was just like, wow, like even just like before you came out, just like looking you up and just seeing what you're into now, and just seeing the photos that come out of this. Like anybody who's listening to this, go look them up.
Yeah.
Just look up Eat the Turnbuckle on Google. You'll find just hours of entertainment there.
Yeah, it was a mess.
For
It was
sure.
crazy. It was like, it was super fun. Yeah, it's not like a very sustaining type of band. Like, within a month of, like, most wrestlers are doing a match, maybe every weekend or two a weekend if they're really busy. You have a week, sometimes more, to like recoup afterwards. And we were doing this every night, every single night, getting smashed through a table or bleeding or rolling around in glass. And we didn't have money. It's not like we were like getting on a nice tour bus afterwards and a venue that had a shower, we're getting into a van and we still have glass stuck in us, like maybe we find a rest stop and we can wash the blood off our face and get it out of our beards and stuff like that. If we're lucky, maybe we get a hotel room that we share amongst all six of us.
I'm surprised you're not covered in scars.
I am.
Or that I could see, like, on your face. Because most of the ones I'm seeing, like,
I was pretty good about it. I'd always cut above my hairline,
Okay.
I'd always, it was usually above my hairline where I have a lot of cuts. But some of these deathmatch guys I was a small force in the band. Like, I only had one spot or so where I'd come out and do some shit, because I'm playing drums. I can't leave quite as much as like
I've seen you getting stabbed in the head while, repeatedly while playing the drums.
Sure, yeah.
Which is just wild. I mean, it's just wild. Like, how do you keep your composure and you get back into play? I mean, it looks awesome.
Adrenaline,
it's super
it's like you're pumped, you're going. Like, I knew damn well what I was signing up for, and like I was ready to pay the price and bleed for it. So like, but your adrenaline's going. You're playing a role. You're wearing a mask. It's like, I'm going to play this character, and you're pumped. It hurts later, but while you're in it, it's fine for the most part, unless you break a bone, which has also happened. Fuck, what was I going to say?
Well, while you're thinking of that, you're saying it as a character, but was there anybody? You don't say names or anything, but like, was it a character for everybody, or did that extend out past the show? Was it hard to break away from that kind of mayhem to then hanging out in a van, driving to a hotel? Like,
for me, it was a light switch. It was like when I'm on stage, I played a role, and then when I got off, I was kind of just back to my normal self. I'd go over to the merch. I always end up handling merch, so I'd be covered in blood wearing my gold thong, and I'd like go back over there and there's blood still crusting onto my stomach. I'm like, hey, thanks so much for coming. It's awesome. I'm glad you guys had fun. And, you have like some fucking wide-eyed French person, and they're like, this was so amazing to see this. I'm like, thank you so much. It's really great. I'm glad you liked it. Would you like a shirt? Yes, please. So good. Can I meet Schlack? I'm like, yeah, if you can find him, go for it. Schlack's always kind of turbo. So.
I'll be honest, Schlack was actually the reason I asked that question. Because, I mean, I got to hanging out with Schlack for a while. Just the two of us sometimes just going out to parties. And he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So I remember the one time we were camping, and I didn't realize what an actual, like, tough individual he is.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was all like a show.
Yeah.
And I remember something happened, and I said something, and I was so grateful that everybody, including yourself, I doubt you remember this, but everybody kind of came to my defense and chilled the situation out. But I think
I was upset about something.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I said something to him, and I was being a smartass.
Yeah.
But I thought we were riffing back and forth, but he was getting hyped, and I thought it was part of it. And then
he's probably loaded,
probably.
He gets a little trigger happy when he's loaded.
But I just remember everybody coming in, and I was like, oh, maybe that was not, like, the best move to be doing this to a guy I barely... I didn't know him at the time, really. Not, like, well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for Schlack, I see him as that character all the time.
When he goes out, I think like, if he has to leave his house and interact with other people, it's game time.
That's
like,
that's more...
That persona is... It is who he is. And when it's a very mellow gathering, or he's at his house, like Schlack's, he's sitting around on his couch in his underwear playing video games, like anyone else. But I think when there's a social gathering, he kind of has a reputation to uphold. So I don't know.
I've seen both sides, but it seems like something he had to turn on more frequently.
Yeah, and that and that is kind of who he is.
Yeah.
He's eccentric in his own way.
Where's he tattooing now?
I think he's at Black Vulture.
Okay.
Up on Girard in Philly.
I don't know why I haven't gone in all these years, but I've wanted him to do a Toxic Avenger tattoo for years.
Yeah, he's a great tattooer.
Yeah.
I know his wrestling is number one. He's a professional deathmatch wrestler now, so I know that's priority. So I don't know how often he's in the shop, but I know he still tattoos sometimes.
So at this point, are you full-time merch?
Yeah.
Like this is your main gig?
Has been for 10, 15 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And my brother and I started our own company, so that's been. We started less than a year ago. It's called Brothers Merchandise, and a creative name, I know. So yeah, that's been priority. Is all these merchandise companies that we've been working for forever. There's a lot of aspects to it where we've there's some really great ones that we work for, and then there's some really not great ones where we're like, God, we could do this so much better than these fucking assholes. You know what I mean? But so we're trying to take what we've learned from the really good ones and apply it to our own thing. And although we're small, I think it's going pretty well for only really kind of being in business for like 6 months. So
That's great.
we have like 3 acts now that we're handling and trying to add more, and doing e-commerce and fulfillment and all that kind of shit. We run their online stores and things like that. So.
Are you doing any kind of music at this point? Playing drums and?
Well, Eat the Turnbuckle.
So you guys are still.
So Eat the Turnbuckle broke up like 7 years ago.
Okay.
We did that big European tour. We did all that shit, and then we played a barbecue. It was our last show. We didn't know it was our last show, but it was right after our second European tour, and we came home, and like a week later we did barbecue, and then there was something in the air. I kind of think we all kind of knew it was coming, and then that was it. We played it, and we just like we never got back together again. That was it. We like never went to practice. It
just wasn't a planned thing.
Didn't talk about it. Nothing. We just stopped playing.
Huh.
And when I joined the band, I started filming everything. Like we were at a show in Denver, and we were hanging out with our buddies in Darkest Hour, like a thrash metal band from DC, and one of the guys was like, "Why aren't you filming everything?" He's like, "You guys are crazy. Like, you got one piece of shit camera like sitting on top of a speaker over there." He's like, "I know that footage probably looks terrible." He's like, "Why aren't you filming everything?" I was like, "The guy's got a point." So on the drive to the next city, we stopped, and I think we got like 3 GoPros. I just started filming everything. I'd film every show, and then I would film I'd film everything else. If something funny happened to the van, I'm filming it. If we're walking across the border in Mexico, I'm filming it. Like Schlack talking to a border patrol person. That's funny. Like he's such a character, and he looks insane. So I'm like, it was basically me just filming Schlack, like doing like everyday things, like ordering eggs at a restaurant. "I'll get 2 eggs, please." I'd be filming him because everything was pretty comical when he would talk. So, yeah. But I filmed everything, and so the band fizzled out after barbecue, and then pandemic, yada yada yada. I had all this footage, and we like kind of talked about like we should make a film or documentary or something, and nothing ever really happened. And I was sitting around during pandemic, and I was actually in a pretty good spot. I was like getting the maximum amount of money the state would send me, and I had worked a lot previously, and I didn't have much overhead. So I was like, I got a little extra cash, like let's make this thing happen. So I started reaching out to some people, and I got in touch with my buddy Eric at Patchtown Films, and he's a big horror guy. Like, he made a horror film called Heebie Jeebie TV. It's awesome. It's like super, like, kind of quirky, weird, goofy horror kind of. I don't know how you describe it. I'm trying to think of like what it would relate to, like a creep show kind of thing almost, but a little more goofy. I don't know. If you haven't seen it, Heebie Jeebie TV it's awesome.
Check it out.
So he's a really talented videographer, and he's really good at editing, and I really needed somebody who could edit. I had a hard drive with hundreds of gigs of shows and outtakes and behind the scenes and bullshit, and I talked to Eric, and he's like, "I'm in." I'm like, "Hey, like," I had to give him like the warning, like, this is a dysfunctional group of guys, and I haven't told any of them what I'm doing yet. Like, I didn't mention to them I'm going to make a film. I didn't talk to them, and I don't know what will happen when I do bring it up. But it needs to happen, and I think if we make a lot of headway, it'll be easier to get those guys in a groove, and everyone will kind of get on board a little easier, and there won't be quite as much like too many drivers in the driver's seat type of thing, as long as they like the direction you're taking it. So that's what we did. I hired Eric, and he started cracking away at it.
That's awesome.
So that was over the course of like 4 years. took us to put this film together. 3 years maybe. And finally, after about a year, I told the guys, I'm like, hey, I hired a videographer to make a documentary. They're like, all right, well, cool. When's he going to start? I'm like, he started a year ago. And they're like, oh. I'm like, here's what we have so far. And they're like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, fuck yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
They liked it. I knew he was a good, everyone's like, because when you bring something like that up amongst 5 guys that are all like fairly well connected with, they've been around a long time, they've been doing music a long time. Everyone knows someone who could probably do it better, but it's like getting one of those motherfuckers to actually cough up the goods and get it in motion is really difficult. And like, not to talk shit on them, I had plenty of time, and I'm maybe was a little bit more motivated to do it than they were. They were busy, or they have families, or whatever the fuck's going on. So I got it going, and they were on board, so that was great. And Eric did an awesome job. So we've been working on that for a while. Finally finished it, like last year, and we did like an intimate screening in Philly with a couple hundred people, and it went really, really, really well. And then we found out a few months ago that WrestleMania was coming to Philadelphia in April of this year, 2024. And Schlack's like, we got to do one last show. And I'm like, fuck, I was kind of hoping to never play again, but I agreed with him, and I think everybody else kind of did too. It's like, if there was ever a time to do a reunion show, it's when WrestleMania comes to Philly. It's a wrestling band. Schlack's been a pro wrestler now in deathmatch scene for 4 or 5 years. He knows a million people. We know all these people. We know all these great bands. So we booked like a farewell show, I guess, like an official goodbye. Whether, if somebody put a bunch of money in front of us to come tour Japan or something, would we take it? I don't know. I can't say for certain, probably. But as of right now, there are no plans to play any other show except for this one in April, on April 4th. So.
And where are you guys playing at? Are you guys playing?
Underground Arts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Come on out.
I know. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm like, wait a minute.
So we've been promoting that. We have Ringworm playing, who like thrash, like angry hardcore metal from Ohio, and we have Fang from California. I don't know if you know Fang, but they're old school, like 80s punk rock. They wrote that song, and the money will roll right in. Nirvana covered it.
Oh, that's cool.
Nirvana covered their song. So Fang's like legendary old school punk rocker dudes. We toured with them a ways back in California. Ground, which is like grindcore dudes from New Jersey. They're awesome. And then Anti-Scene, which is like super old school Confederacy of Scum kind of OG wrestling influenced scum rock. Jeff Clayton is the singer. He's been smashing his head open, bleeding all over the place for like 30 years. We played with him, but then he saw all 5 of us doing it. He's like, those guys are crazy as hell, So that's the show. But Schlack has now gone and booked something like 20 deathmatch wrestlers to come to the show also.
That's awesome.
I'm not quite sure what's I think the whole room is a wrestling. Like, there's no actual ring. It's a no-ring death match with like 20 wrestlers in the crowd.
That's awesome.
It's dangerous.
It seems like something I kind of want to be around to see, though.
It's going to be something. Yeah. I know we've sold like 300-something tickets so far, which is, for us being a small band, it's pretty good.
That
doesn't even include the fucking all the wrestlers and all the other bands and stuff. So it's tickets are moving right along. So if this is something that even remotely interests anyone listening, you should probably grab a ticket.
And when's that show?
April 4th.
That's awesome. All right. It's coming up soon.
Yeah. So that's the only music I'm doing right now. And it all spawned because of we made this film, and this film went really well. And it kind of brought all the guys back together when we hadn't really been. We'd see each other out and about, and we'd do things sometimes together, but never as a whole group. And it kind of brought everybody together because we had to get together to do group interviews and certain things and photos and whatever. And, when you get everybody in a room, you get to talking. It's like, WrestleMania, we should do a show. So the band recorded like one last song. We got the song on Sirius XM radio. Our buddy Sean the Butcher is a DJ over there with Liquid Metal, and he loved us. He loved us when he first saw us at Barbecue the first time around, and he was like, "Dude, you guys record a song. I'll do a hostile takeover for a week and play your song every day." And we're like, "All right, fuck it. So let's do the song. It'll end up in the movie at some point. Probably we need to make little edits to the movie, but yeah, it spawned this last show, this goodbye show.
So the movie, that's not available yet then?
No, it's not.
When
So
could people expect to see that?
I don't know.
Because I'd really, really like to see it.
I might be able to send you a screener if you
I would
want to watch
love
it.
to.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Thank you.
It exists. It's done. It's a finished film. But we wanted to see if, I mean, we put a lot of time and money into this thing, and so instead of just immediately trying to put out a DVD or whatever, like I was like, let's do the whole thing. Like none of us have made a real film before. It's like a proper documentary. It's a little roller coaster of emotions. It's up and down. It's pulls at the heartstrings. It's also like gruesome. You're like, what the fuck? But then you like fall in love with some of the characters. You're like, oh my god, that's so sad. You know, like it's this whole fucking thing of a bunch of assholes, like a bunch of fucking idiots that you would never expect. It's like, it's not just a bunch of meathead idiots smashing each other. I mean, it is, but you kind of see the behind the scenes, the dynamics of how the band went. And for some people, it was really, really meaningful for them to be in that band as it got them away from really bad things. You know, like our bass player Hook was in fucking jail for a couple years. You know, right when he got out, he packed up everything he owned in trash bags and got on a SEPTA bus and went to Philly because his PO was like, you can't stay in this town anymore. Like, it gets you in trouble. So he moved up. He made friends with Goldberg. He lived in the tattoo shop. If you wanted to call him, you had to call the tattoo shop. And he joined that band. And, like, he went from that to playing at Wacken in Germany, where there's, like, 87,000 people. So
That's wild.
You know, you get to see a little bit more background of some of the guys in the band. And, you know,
yeah, that's great. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that.
it's like not to like toot my own horn. I don't know what I'm doing. And Eric is the one who like really was able to like make this storyline. I had all the shit. I gave him all the stuff. He started showing me storyline. We jumped in a little bit with some suggestions, but Eric kind of took it and made it a watchable film where you're like, okay, this can keep your interest for 90 minutes, which is not easy to do.
No.
Dude, the first cut of the film was like 3.5 hours long. He's like, we got to trim some fat. I'm like, big time. But it's hard when you have so much footage that's like, here's us pulling glass out of so-and-so's neck in a parking lot in Glasgow, Scotland. You know, here's this and here's that. And here's the hospital visit here. And, you know, all this shit. Like, here's us hiding from the cops or here's, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, to trim all that down into 90 minutes and still make it, like, have a flow. It's pretty tough. I suck at video editing. I've tried to do little things. So the daunting task of 90-minute film. Like, that's crazy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, just the editing I've done here, or just doing editing, like where I'll film for a weekend of something we're doing, and like mixing phone and drone shots, bro. And it is so tedious.
Yeah.
But the part that is always for me the hardest is, you know, you get this long thing and you're like, I like this, but nobody's going to want to sit through 3 hours of this. Like, you need to trim it.
It's the
like
hardest part.
That's rough.
We would have this, you know, I mean, I must have watched 20 versions of it before it got to where it is. And I would, like, my girlfriend, you know, or whoever I was dating at the time when it first, like, these poor people that I'd be like, hey, watch this. What don't you like? And they'd be like, oh, this part right here is boring. And they'd be like, oh, that was so funny, this part. So I was like, all right, hey, I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Like, what I think is amazing, because I was there for all of it, it all makes sense to me, but, like, you have to put yourself in the average Joe's fucking shoes and be like, is this fucking boring? Is this 90-minute film? Like, for me, it's all special because it's fun and I know everything that happened, but, like, someone who knows nothing about this band or that life or anything, like, can this keep their attention? Is this good? So, like, a lot of edits had to be made. A lot of shit had to get cut back. And, you know, shit that I was like, you can't cut that. That part's great. And then you think about it, you're like, all right, fuck, maybe we got to cut it, you know?
Do you have a time frame of when you're trying to maybe look at having it available?
So as of right now, I don't really know how the whole film and releasing actual copies things works. I don't know if there's conflict of interest with... So we've submitted to like 20 film festivals, and a lot of those we're going to wait to see the results. Like, some of them come later this month. Some of them we don't get results until like June or wherever, sometime in the summer. I don't know if you can release it while you're waiting to show it at a film festival, because a lot of these film festivals want to be the first place people can see it.
I got a buddy, he was he has a YouTube channel, Simon's Rants. He went out and made his own horror movie.
Yeah.
Loved it. We went to the screening.
Yeah.
But now he's, the same boat. He's sending it around, and I keep asking, like, when can we see it? He's like, I got to do
Everyone's
these
like,
first.
just fuck off and wait.
Yeah.
Like it's not ready yet. Like,
Yeah.
the whole idea of a film festival is to like get some hype around your film. Can you put it into a festival? Do they like it? Do you win? Can you win an award? Well, now you just got an award on the cover of your film.
Exactly,
and
that's where he's at
on the cover
at
of
this
your
point.
film,
Yeah.
and it's like that looks really good to distribution companies and streaming services. Like, oh, it's an award winner for this, and that. It's like now your film you're basically just trying to attach value to your film. It's like, is it just five assholes that made a movie and they want me to offer them how much money to put it out? Fuck you. It's like, actually, it placed here, it won final, won here, it was a finalist at this. It's like, obviously, there's a reason people like it. So, now it's like there's a little bit more valuable, like a little bit more value connected to your film. So, we're a finalist in the California Music and Music Video Awards in San Francisco.
That's cool.
So, that's the first one that we've seen come back. Because they announced, where you place or if you've been accepted even at all. And we got accepted and we're also finalists. So we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome.
We're coming for the crown, baby. There's a ton more. So I'm just like every couple of weeks, I'll like go on the, there's a website that you like put your film on. You can submit to all these things and you can check and see which ones you've been accepted to or not. So I'm waiting to see who we get accepted by.
I wish you the best, dude.
Thanks. Yeah,
I'm very excited to see it.
It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know anything about film, so it's been fun to like kind of learn about it. It's a lot. There's a lot involved in it. I thought this was like, just hand it to an editor and make a fucking film. No, dude, it's so much more work than that. Like,
seems like it was worth it though.
Yeah, it's expensive though, dude. I didn't know this, but did you know you have to spend money to submit to film festivals?
No, I didn't know that at all.
Sure do. Yeah, you have to join this site called film. And after thinking about it, it makes perfect sense. And I'm not like disgruntled at all. There's a site called Film Freeway. You put your film on it, all your information, like who's the producer, who's the director, basically in like a kind of like a quick summary IMDb type thing. You have your film uploaded onto it, so you can. It's a networking thing for film festivals and things of that nature. So you put your film on it, pick all these film festivals that you want to submit to. All your information is there, your trailer's on it, your film's on it. Click of a button, pay whatever their fee is to submit to, and now you've done it. So it's really easy. It's a very simplified process. But say you want to submit to Sundance, it's $100 or something like that.
Okay.
And I was like, $100 fucking, what the fuck?
That adds up if you're doing more than one.
Absolutely. We're doing 20 of them.
Yeah.
Granted, they're not all $100. Sundance is a big one. Tribeca is a big one, like shit like that. But then there's small independent, horror and documentary and music and whatever. Some of them are as low as $10. Some of them are the average. I think the average median is like $30-$40. So, but I get it also. I'm like, I was a little pissed off at first. I'm like, we got to fucking spend all this money to submit. And then I started thinking about from like the people that have to sit there and review film. If it were free,
the amount
you'd never
have.
get to the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
You'd never get to the end of it. You'd be sitting there with every fucking asshole's film that ever wanted to submit anything. So you put some money on it, it kind of lets you know how serious are these people about their project. If it was free, it's like, I got to sit here and watch fucking 3 months worth of movies for any asshole that wanted to submit it.
Yeah, it sounds brutal.
Of junk. At least if it's junk, though, somebody put a little bit of money on. It's like it still could be dog shit, but they're serious about it. They're willing to spend the $50 to submit. So
yeah, it makes sense.
That made sense. Yeah, exactly. So I don't feel quite as I don't. Everyone wants to keep their budget down, but like this is a necessary evil. So.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
I don't know. Are we done already?
Dude, time's flown by. Yeah. Yeah. We can go on more.
I don't know. I don't. Do you have any other questions? I don't know.
I think we covered just about everything.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to come back on, especially after it's released. You can come and promote.
Yeah. What's your audience like? Do you have a lot of interaction with them? Like
interaction. Mostly the interaction I have with the audience is people I know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Where does this stream?
So
by the
this
way?
is so for everybody listening, you can watch us on Rumble, YouTube, and it's
Is
on
it all
anywhere you
video,
listen to
too?
podcast. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Have these been on the whole time?
yeah.
Okay. There's no red light on that.
There's
one.
no red light on that one. It's supposed to be well. This is all. It's always later,
all
but it's
connected?
supposed. Yeah, it's all connected. They're all recording separately, and I go in and take them all.
Fuck, I didn't know if I
put
was.
it together.
I didn't like pick my nose or anything weird.
You might, if you did, I'll make sure I click right on you when you're doing that.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off. Where can you?
No, it's
you
all
said
good.
Rumble and YouTube. And,
Rumble and YouTube.
what's Rumble?
Rumble is like I guess it
I
started
don't
as
know
more of like
anything
a.
about podcasts, dude. I go watch a little bit of them when they pop up on my Instagram feed, but I really don't.
Rumble's more of a free speech type of YouTube.
Okay.
So like some of my episodes have been pulled, or YouTube refuses to share them because of subject matter.
Yeah.
So Rumble's a place where all of those episodes and
Don't tread on
clips
me,
can be right
motherfuckers.
there. That's
what
right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
and they're actually doing really well. If you want it, that's a good stock tip.
Yeah.
I bought them like a month ago and they
yeah.
doubled.
Let's go.
They've been out for years.
Dude, I love making money.
It's great, yeah.
I'm in.
Between that and Bitcoin, I'm doing all right.
Yeah. What do you buy it on? What, is it
Rumble-
is it a regularly traded stock?
Yeah.
So okay. So
Rum.
I
It's
could
RUM.
I could go through my Fidelity account and
You sure
add
can.
it to my portfolio.
Sure can.
Sweet.
Doing well.
I will. I'll buy some.
But anyway, yeah, Rumble, and then anywhere podcasts are available, we're on there, and we come out the first weekend of every month.
Okay. So this will be out next month,
Next month,
March.
and then followed by a police officer. So
What?
I'm followed by a police officer the month after. I'm saying
What about?
I got a new guest coming on. I'm saying the next guest. We got you next month.
Oh, you
coming
have a
out,
cop coming on the
and I have a
next
cop
one.
coming up. Yeah, so he's going to fill your seat next.
Interesting.
Next weekend.
I'll make sure to fart in it. I'm just joking, officer. I'm joking.
But yeah, no, dude, it was awesome. I'm glad you came out.
Yeah, thanks for having
Appreciate
me.
it.
No, it's fun. It's fun to sit here and talk about yourself.
Absolutely. All right, everybody listening, thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Signing off.